Let's go! The official BSB partner series. This is FAB-Racing.
Hello and welcome to the FAB-Racing Minibike British Championship. It is round 4 and we are here from Red Lodge in a very, very sunny Suffolk. It's been 90 long days since we were last on circuit at FAB, and well, it's been also 235 since we were last here. Of course, the final round of the 2020 season. I'm Gareth Hall, being joined, as always, by Tristan Finocchiaro, and we'll be bringing you wall-to-wall action all throughout this weekend. And, well, Tristan, it's very sunny. In fact, we spent, the last 90 days waiting for football to come home. Unfortunately, for myself, it didn't quite come home. For yourself, a little bit happier.
Yeah, I mean, no, it was going to come home either way for me, being half English, half Italian. But now, it's good for the sun to be out now for FAB-Racing.
Yeah, well, we're expecting it to get hotter and hotter and hotter throughout the weekend. 29 degrees we're expecting on Sunday. So it's going to be sizzling on circuit, whether that be the action or whether that be the tyres as they start to strip away. But throughout this weekend, we'll look at what FAB is. And Tristan, what is FAB to you and what is FAB to the rest of the community?
I mean, FAB-Racing for a very long time is essentially being where riders start off their racing careers. It's been around for as long as I can remember and has produced so many great talents, the likes of Danny Kent, Scott Redding. The list of names goes on, and this is exactly where all the riders start out their racing careers on mini-motos, up to the Metrokit geared bike machines, and begin their racing careers. Essentially, there's also a platform here for any riders looking to have a bit of fun in some senior classes as well. We see sidecars, we see pit bikes, all sorts of action.
Absolutely, and of course the ultimate goal for a lot of these young riders is to make their way up onto the bigger tracks, the likes of the British Talent Cup and through to Stock 6 and Super Sport and GP2. There's so many opportunities for these young riders to grow, and FAB is the absolute best place to come and do so. And well, this weekend we are, as I said, here at Red Lodge, and Red Lodge, it's a fun circuit. The riders love it. It's quite flat. It's quite a flat circuit. It is very tight and twisty, quite technical. So it does seem to test out these riders.
Yeah, quite a bit different to what we had 12 weeks ago at Lid for rounds 1 and 2. A lot more tight, a lot more compact. A bit of a smaller circuit, but a very different track surface as well. But we had some great racing last year. Very different conditions this year, but I think it'll be good again.
Yeah, absolutely. So watch out for the racing this weekend. The likes of the MKGP70s, they'll be running in the Mark Howe Trophy as well. Mark Howe Trophy will be run last year, won by Mason Foster. He's very, very confident. And we heard from Mason Foster a little bit earlier on today. Red Lodge was very successful for you last season, picked up the Mark Howe Trophy and a couple of wins. How are you feeling this weekend?
I'm feeling good. Last session, had really good feeling with the bike. Set my fastest ever lap round here, so it looks good for a good weekend.
Obviously, it's been a big gap between the round 1, round 2 and here at round 4. So how are you feeling? It's been 3 months off the bike. Easy to get back on the track?
Yeah, you never forget how to ride a bike really, but it's just takes a few sessions to get back into it.
Obviously, beautiful conditions for it this weekend. Much different to last time we were here at Red Lodge. So how's the track feeling? Is it grippier? Obviously, track temperature will be up.
Yeah, the track temperature is up, but track feels really good and grippy. So, yeah.
And looking forward to this weekend. Obviously, you've got Ethan Sparks. Philip Soroviak was a bit of a surprise candidate for this championship. Ronnie Harris looking very strong. So where do you think the talent's going to lie this weekend?
I think Ethan will be my main competitor this weekend. So it's always hard to beat him, but I'm sure it'll be a good challenge.
I'm here with Philip Soroviak. Philip, who was probably one of the stars of round 1 and round 2 back at Lid. Class win in the MKGP70s, you must have been absolutely delighted.
Yeah, I was really happy with my overall performance at Lid. Here we're kind of getting to the stage of warming up and everything, so yeah.
And I said before when I spoke to you in the paddock at Lid that you're probably worked the hardest over the winter period. Is clearly paying off. So what have you been doing in this big gap between round 2 and round 4?
Just practicing. Everywhere I could go, I'll go. For Red Lodge, Elo, practice days, yeah.
And obviously, big weekend, we've got Ethan Sparks, Mason Foster. We know that Ronnie Harris is going to be on the pace. So where are you looking pace-wise? You've had a couple of laps there on circuit.
Looking about 4th, 3rd, kind of top runners, but not quite at that first place that I want.
And obviously, after a strong round 1 and 2, expectations would have built for you for the rest of the season. So what's your ultimate goal come the end of the season?
I want to try and get at least top 3, kind of make me happy, you know.
Well, you've got to think that it's coming. Absolutely magnificent at Lid. I'm sure you'll do very well here at Red Lodge. Good luck, and we'll see what you can do this weekend.
So here with Ethan Sparks, running at the front of the GP70 Championship, won every race that you've finished so far. Just sum up how it's been.
So it's been quite tricky because I crashed out the first race at Lid, but then I managed to win the other 5 and get a lead in the championship.
Quite the comeback, winning every race that that you'd finished after that crash. Just talk us through what happened in the incident itself.
So I think I went a bit quick into the corner trying to pull away, and my tyres were a bit cold, so on the first couple of laps I just pushed a bit hard and lost the front.
12-week gap between round 2 and round 3 now here at Red Lodge. What have you been doing in between that time to stay race fit?
I've been riding at some local tracks like Croydon and Amoring, and mainly Croydon because it's a lot closer for us, and I've just been riding.
Going into this weekend then, are you looking to rack up all the points and extend that lead at the front?
Yeah, just to pull a bit more of a gap, but I think it might be tricky because Mason's quite quick as well.
You've already had some track time here, so how's it been going so far?
It's been going alright. I got quite a quick lap time, and I managed to get my quickest lap time around here.
Here with Henry McCartney racing in the GP70s this year. How was your first round at Lid?
First round was good. First few races going good than expected because I just jumped off an oval in 2020 and yeah, it went really well.
Well, what's it like swapping bikes from the 4-stroke back to the 2?
The 4-stroke, it just feels like you can change gear more, like less times, and 2-stroke you're always changing gear and it's a lot harder.
These Metra kits have been used in FAB-Racing for years, and we've seen all sorts of names come up and through on them, and they're still really solid bikes. So what are they like to ride?
Well, the 50, it doesn't really slide as much as the 70, but the 70's here and it just slides out the corners and everything, and but it's a really good bike.
Looking strong in practice. Do you think you'll be able to get that top step this weekend?
Hopefully we can get some good results in.
Who do you think are going to be your main rivals?
Ethan Sparks, Mason Foster and Philip Soroviak.
What's it going to take to beat them?
Just confidence and just skill.
Perfect. Well, best of luck for the weekend.
Thank you.
We're here with Ronnie Harris, MKGP70 rider, last season's runner-up in the GP50s. Ronnie, you've had 2 rounds already so far. How was Lid, and equally, what are you looking forward to this weekend?
Lid was good. I was close to a podium. I was on the pace. This round, I'm slowly building up to the podium. I think I can do well this weekend, but I need to put my mind to it.
And it's been a big break in between rounds, 3 months. So how much time have you had on the bike, and equally, what is it like getting back on circuit now?
I haven't had much time on the bike. I've been to a few smaller tracks just to keep the feel of the bike. But it's been quite nice getting back on.
And moving up from the 50s into the 70s this season, how are you feeling with the new bike?
It's more fun. It has more tolerance in the 50, so it's not easy to ride, but you have more tolerance with gear changes, and it's quite difficult on these small circuits.
And of course, we saw at Lid, you got faster and faster as the week went on, or as the weekend went on. You, as you say, were right on the edge of the podium by the end of this the weekend. So coming into this one, you know that the likes of Ethan's going to be quick, you know that Mason's going to be quick. So what do you think realistically a goal for you this weekend?
Top 5, but I would like to get a podium, but I'm just off the pace at the minute. But as I said, I'm slowly working up, so I think I can aim for top 5.
Great to hear from some of the riders in the premier class of FAB-Racing, the MKGP 70s. Their next stop is the British Talent Cup, which of course will be heading to Brands Hatch very, very shortly. Now, some of the other riders that we've seen so far this season, round 1 and round 2 down at Lid, of course, that absolutely stacked bumper weekend of action. And if you haven't had a chance to go watch it, check out Fab's YouTube channel and you can go and watch all the racing from them. Some of the riders we saw, Archie O'Brien, of course, absolutely dominating on the mini motos, the AC40 Pros and the LC40 Elites, almost taking a clean sweep. 5 wins from 6 races in the LC40 Elites and 6 from 6 in the AC40 Pros. Can he be stopped?
Very much the dominant force, Archie O'Brien. Both Archies really on the mini moto classes, Archie O'Brien and Archie Gibbs. Like you say, Archie O'Brien has won every single race apart from one, and that's in both. So in one class he's won all 6, and the other he's had 5 out of 6. And on that other one, he had a little bit of an off and managed to come home in P3. So looking very, very strong. There's plenty of other riders out there that can be challenging for podium positions. So we're going to be keeping an eye out all through the field, and these riders as well, learning as they go ahead. So we can see some big changes at any point. It has been a 12-week gap as well.
Yeah, it has, and we've spoken to quite a few of the riders about that gap and how they've managed to adapt. Of course, almost 90 days, 3 months gap, and some of them have been on track, some maybe haven't been on track. So it's going to be a big weekend for Archie Gibbs. We spoke to Archie Gibbs. He's making his debut on the GP50 bike this weekend.
How are you finding the transition?
Good, yeah. First time on the 50 this weekend, so yeah, feeling confident enough.
There's been a long gap between round 2 and round 3. Have you managed to get any sort of practice on either bike?
We've been both. A lot of that. The mini not so, but we have been practicing a couple of times.
What's it been like adjusting to gears coming from a bike that doesn't have any?
Coming up to the 50s, before the weekend I thought I could be with Clayton and Marco. It's very different to the mini moto, so we have to do best we can this weekend.
Doing really well on the mini moto as well in both the AC40 Pros and the LC40 Elites. At the front of those championships, how do you think the rounds 2 and 3 went for you? 2
and 3, not the start we needed, but not really. So, yeah.
Archie Gibbs is Archie O'Brien, is looking really strong in that one. What do you think it takes to be able to get ahead of him?
Is just wide, fast as possible.
Perfect. Well, thanks a lot for talking to us, and best of luck for the weekend.
Thank you.
So here with junior rider Bill Harris. Bill, you've gone through the ranks on the mini motos and now having a go on the Metric kits as well.
Yeah, it's really good on the Metric kit.
So what's the difference moving up from the mini moto up to the gear bike machine? What did you have to learn?
Well, you had to learn to get the gears around different tracks. Yeah, so
what's it
bigger, so they're quite a lot harder to ride as well.
What's it like dealing with that extra bit of weight you've got?
It's not that hard, but on tight corners it's quite hard to flip the bike over to go into the next corner.
Of course, Ronnie, your brother, has had a little bit of experience on these machines before you. Has he been giving you any advice at all?
Not really.
Is it a big sibling rivalry then?
Yeah.
That's perfect. Going into Red Lodge then, what's your targets going into this weekend?
I'm just hoping to get top 5, or hopefully a podium.
I'm here with Harrison Day, who's running in the AC40 Pros and the LC40 Elites this season. Harrison, round 1, round 2, back at Lid, pretty successful. Managed to get yourself some decent results. How did you find it?
It was good. It was my first weekend in the Pros and the LCs, so felt good.
And you've had a couple of laps here at Red Lodge. It's been a while, it's been a break between the last few rounds, so how's the track feeling?
It's grippy. I just got onto the juniors.
And looking forward for the rest of the weekend, what's the aim? Obviously qualifying coming up soon, where do you want to put the bike?
In the pros, I would like to get pole, but thinking I might get second. And in the LCs, I would like to get third.
And looking around you, it's a pretty stacked grid in both the pros, of course. In the pros, you've got the likes of Archie O'Brien, Archie Gibbs. So you want to be holding on to the back end of those guys?
Yes, I do.
Well, good luck. Look forward to seeing what you can do this weekend.
So Marco Holt making this step up from the mini moto classes up to the GP50 this year. How's it gone so far?
Yeah, it's gone really well actually. Battling away with Clayton, and yeah.
So moving up from the mini moto to the GP50, moving from a mini moto to a gearbox machine, what is that like?
A lot different because there's more stuff to do on the 50, but I still managed to just get on with it and ride.
What do you think you can achieve this weekend then?
We're hoping for a podium, but we want like a second or first.
Clayton's looking really strong this weekend and back at Lid. What do you think it's going to take to beat him?
Just letting off the brakes on the power early and maybe some late apexes.
So we've seen all across your bike and your number 58, very much inspired by Marco Simoncelli, I'm assuming was a hero of yours.
Yes.
Also with the name as well.
Yep.
That's perfect. Well, we wish you the best of luck this weekend and thanks a lot for talking to us.
Thank you.
I'm here with Luke Fitchett, who's been running well, had a really good round 1 and round 2 back at Lid, so you must have been pretty happy with that.
Yeah, I was, because my aim basically all weekend was to beat Archie Gibbs, and in the last race I managed to do that, so I was really happy with that.
Yeah, as you say, a couple of podiums, a couple of decent results, got yourself a decent haul of points in the championship. So coming here to Red Lodge, what's the goal, what's the aim?
Again, I want to beat Archie, and I'd like to get near Archie O'Brien, who's been dominating.
He has indeed. And what have you got to do to match someone like Archie O'Brien, who just seems to have turned it on this season and just stepped up a gear?
I think you just have to, because he opens his throttle and shoots out of the corners, and he's got a slower entry, so I think I have to change my riding style a bit to get closer to him.
And have you had some time on circuit? What's it like out there?
Yeah, it's quite good. It's a technical track. I quite like it here, but there are some places where I do get a few tank clappers, but I like it overall.
Well, looking forward to what you can do this weekend. Good luck, and hopefully have a good one.
Thank you.
So we're here with Sam Gardner racing in the mini moto classes. How are you finding your journey at FAB so far?
It's good.
What are you enjoying about it?
The quicker bike, it's a lot more fun, and yeah, it's just.
So moving up from the 10 mil to the 14, what's that been like?
It's been hard, but I've got used to it now.
Had a bit of a crash back at the last one. What happened there?
I think the back just slid, and then I just went.
All part of the learning curve. Well, we're here now at Red Lodge, a new circuit. How are you finding it?
It's fun.
Different to Lid?
Yeah.
What's the difference?
There's a lot more tighter corners and still quite fast.
So looking forward with your career, what's next for you? Are you looking to go up to Metricits and then British Talent Cup? Is that the vision?
Yeah, hopefully.
And then MotoGP?
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, we look forward to seeing you and thanks a lot for talking to us.
Thank you.
I'm here with Archie O'Brien, LC40 Elites and AC40 Pros. Archie, season started absolutely fantastically back at Lid, almost taking a clean sweep of victory, so you must have been delighted leaving.
Yeah, well, we was pretty happy with it, but wasn't quite perfect as we didn't get the clean sweep, but still a really good weekend nevertheless.
And it's been a big break. You've had about 3 months off, so what's it like being back on the bike here at Red Lodge?
Well, it's sort of natural really, when there's a certain stage that you get to, and no matter how long you take off a bike, you just get back on and you're used to it.
And as we say, you almost took the clean sweep in both classes, did in the AC40 Pros. You've got Archie Gibbs chasing you almost every single race. So what's it like to, have that confidence behind yourself on the bike and just keep pushing yourself forward?
Well, you just sort of got to relax. No matter who's there, I always just try to find my groove as much as possible, and that seems to work.
And looking forward, of course, we've got a beautiful weekend's weather here, so obviously perfect conditions on the circuit. What are you looking for?
Wins.
Well, I'm sure they'll be coming. Good luck, Archie. Great to see you, and hopefully we'll see you do very well this weekend. And they will all be chasing down Clayton Edmonds. Clayton Edmonds, who had a stunning first 2 rounds down at Lid, clearing house and looking very, very strong in this championship moving forward. Another rider's looking very strong. He's down in the AC40 Rookies. Of course, a championship this season for the first time. Oliver Hall, very fast young rider, very determined. However, Finlay Bardell, new rider, new to the series, and has jumped in, leading the championship. Had a very, very strong opening week.
Yeah, after trialling out that cup process last year, it is a championship again this year, which is great to see, because it gives these young riders an incentive to go out and try and get a championship in their first year of racing. And like you say, Finlay Bardell, his first ever season of racing ever, a very young age as well, and he's already leading a championship and looking very, very strong and very mature as well, which is something we see a lot with these guys. They're always very mature through these classes, despite being so new to the sport.
Yeah, and they are, of course, from ages 6 and up. So if you'd like to be a part of FAB, and of course you do start at the AC40 Rookies, head over to the website fab-racing.co.uk, where you can find out all the details about getting yourself on the grid and starting what is the journey to MotoGP. Of course, FAB is an official partner of the British Superbikes as well. So many young talents have made their way up through FAB onto the likes of the British Talent Cup. Of course, last season's MKGP 70 champion, Lucas Brown, you can now see him in there, alongside the likes of Johnny Garness and so many others. Holly Harris, of course, the first ever female winner at a FAB event. She is on the British Talent Cup, and it's a great place, as we said at the start, to go just learn your skills, learn your trade, and move up onto those bigger tracks.
Yeah, absolutely. It sets them in perfect stead to move up to the likes of the British Talent Cup, to the likes of Junior Supersport, European Talent Cup. And the good thing is now they have plenty of options as well. Once they leave FAB-Racing, there's plenty of options for these young riders to be able to go out and expand and learn how to ride the big tracks. And I mean, these Metrokit machines that have been used for so long are the perfect tools to get them ready for that experience.
And of course, it's not just the kids that get to have some fun here at Red Lodge this weekend. We've got plenty of adult racing, whether it be the likes of the Senior Mini Motos, the Pit Bike 140s, the Extreme 200s, and of course the Mini F1 sidecars. They will be out on circuit, so make sure you do not miss a beat of action here from Red Lodge. But, well, Tristan, well, finally, as we wrap up, what have we got to look forward to this week, and what are you ready to sink your teeth into?
Well, the Premier Class is always exciting, and I expect it to be a scintillating race this weekend, because a bunch of races, because Ethan Sparks out the front of it, and so many riders are trying to get hot on his tail. Equally, GP50s, Clayton Edmonds looking very, very strong, but I think the likes of Marco Holt and the rest will be trying to close him down. So, also, we're going to be seeing the sidecars as well, the Pit Bike 140s, Extreme 200s. They always give us great racing. Change of names constantly in those classes, but we always see some bar bashing.
Absolutely. So a Moto team, they will be out on the circuit. Of course, the team scores the point, not the rider, so we can have a position where they're all swapping positions. It confuses us, however, it makes for great racing. So make sure you tune in all day here from Red Lodge with myself, Gareth Hall, and Tristan Finocchiaro. We'll be bringing you all the action from the 4th round of the FAB-Racing Mini Bike British Championship.
Let's go! The official BSB Partner Series. This is FAB-Racing.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to finally see you all. And, well, we've all seen you chatting away in the social media groups, and, of course, everyone here in the paddock. My name is Gareth Hall. I'm joined, as always, by Tristan Finocchiaro, and we're here for the 3rd round of the season. Red Lodge over in Suffolk. It is absolutely scorching today. It is really, really heating up there. And, Tristan, we're set up for an absolutely perfect weekend's racing.
Absolutely. So like you say, the weather is really giving us a treat this weekend, unlike what we saw last time we were here at Red Lodge, where it was very, very on and off. But this weekend, like you said, it's going to be great weather all weekend, so we can look forward to some amazing racing. We've already had some practice and qualifying sessions underway. The LC40 Elites have just finished their final qualifying session of the weekend, and it looks as if Archie O'Brien yet again is going to be the one to beat in that one.
Yeah, and that has been very much so far this season. Archie O'Brien, we're equally with Archie Gibbs chasing him down. Watch out for the likes of Finley Polehill and Luke Fitchett as well from the second row of the grid. I'm sure they will be looking at being very, very strong come the end of this one, as we've got one of the riders down at the start of qualies. That's some of the riders coming out for their next session. Yeah, it's pretty tricky conditions, because obviously the track has been getting hotter, it's been getting grippier, and of course a little bit of a break for these guys in between, maybe a little bit switch, one of the riders just switching off there.
Yeah, I think just coming back into the pits after the qualifying two for the LC40 Elites, I think that's one of the Johnsons that just had a little bit of an issue coming back in. Of course, Austin and Byron Johnson out in that one, finishing 5th and 7th in that session. Of course, these guys, in every class at FAB-Racing, they get a qualifying 1 and a qualifying 2. The best time from those sessions decides where they start on the grid. And you can hear the rumble as the Pit Bike 140s go out for their second qualifying session of the day. Of course, already completed one earlier on, and it was Rossi Banham that was quickest in that one.
Yeah, and Rossi did very nicely indeed, and had a pretty strong lid as well back. But it's been 90 days since we were last racing. That's a whopper of a time to be sitting there just tapping your toes, just waiting to get back on the bike. So what is it? Because it's almost like that winter break length that they had in between the... of course, unfortunately, we had the cancellation of what was meant to be round 3 at Llandau in Wales, which is why, and you'll notice that Tristan said round 2 and round 3, I said round 3 and round 4. We're not quite sure which round it is. It could be 3, it could be 4, it could be any of them. We'll find out. I'm sure we'll make it up as we go along. But what is it like having that gap where you're just waiting to get back on the bike, and it just doesn't seem to come, and 90 days later you're finally here?
It's been such a long break for these guys, 12 weeks, and I can only imagine how it must have been. It must be exactly like having a winter break or a summer break. But even summer breaks in some of the classes, like you see MotoGP World Superbikes, they're only 6 weeks long. So these guys have had a hell of a break between rounds 2 and 3. Of course, this was going to be round 4, which is where all our confusion has come in. But we're awake now, and we're realising this is round 3 for the FAB-Racing Minibike British Championships. But yeah, like I said, it would have felt like such a long wait for these guys. But it means they're going to be raring to go, and it's almost like we've got a new season underway.
Yeah, it is, and really looking forward to it, because of course Lyd was a sensational weekend, managed to fit 2 rounds in one weekend, so it was a lot of work for these riders to get out there and put in 6 races over the weekend, but they did a great job of it. And at the moment it's Taylor Lawrence in qualifying in this Pit Bike 140s, and you look at the pit bikes out on circuit, it's almost like watching a swarm of hornets making their way around the circuit. It's loud, it's noisy, it's as we say, the ground underneath your feet starts to rumble and shake. And Taylor, he had a pretty strong lid, and here, setting on the pace straight away.
Yeah, Taylor Lawrence, like you say, at the front of this one. Rossi Banham just goes top with a 47.4. Not quite as quick as they did in qualifying 1. So these times won't decide the positions for the grid, as there is a rider to the side of the circuit on the far end of the circuit. But these times won't decide their positions for the grid, as they're not quite as fast as what they did earlier on. They're getting close though. 47.4 for Rossi Banham in this session, compared to a 47.3 that he did earlier on, and it's very, very close at the top for these guys. 47.3 for Rossi Banham, 47.4 for Taylor Lawrence, 47.5 for Reece Peacock, Chris Wells in 4th on a 47.6, and Jamie King on a 47.6. That was earlier on in qualifying 1, but now in qualifying 2 it is Rossi Banham that is still leading this session. Taylor Lawrence, Jamie King, Reece Peacock, these are all riders that we can expect to see out the front.
Yeah, and all riders that did very well back at the first 2 rounds of the season back at Lyd. Of course, Taylor Lawrence picking up 4 wins out of 6 races. Rossi Banham finished as a race winner. Chris Wells did equally well. He picked up a race win. But yeah, watch out for the likes of Rossi Banham and Jamie King, currently in 2nd and 3rd positions. But Reece Peacock down there in 4th. He's definitely one of those sleeper riders that just seems to pick up some decent results here and there. And didn't really have the strongest of opening rounds. Didn't quite break inside the top 5. His best result was back in 8th place, but he often, especially in the races, seems to move forward, and it's something we find with this 140 class is there's so many out there that you almost lose count the amount of overtakes that get done on circuit. There's lapping, there's overtakes, there's fights through the field. Of course, we usually have upwards of 30 bikes on track, so you can never really keep in touch of where everyone's moved up from, but we often see riders start at the back, and by the end of the second or third lap they'll be in the top 5.
Yeah, exactly, which is difficult to do in a class like this as well, because these guys start so far back and on such a packed grid as well, and we always see plenty of names as well from the BSB paddock in here doing stuff like that. Charlie Nesbitt, he always liked to start from the back of the grid and just carve his way through for a little bit of fun and a little bit of training, I guess, for him. But we're not seeing too many of the names from the BSB paddock this weekend. Rossi Banham at the front, of course, he's a British Talent Cup rider and ex-Junior Supersport rider as well, so that's one name you will know from over in the British Talent Cup paddock. But most of these guys are pit bike experts.
Yeah, and they take pride in their bikes. We had a walk around the paddock and they're all there just making sure everything is spit and span and shining the bikes up ready to go for this one. So a lot of care goes into these bikes in the off season, and the likes of Jamie King was really working the bike, and in fact he had enough time to work on the bike and fill up a paddling pool next to him ready to sit in, because it is absolutely scorching today.
Yeah, absolutely, and he's going to need that paddling pool if he's going to be doing 3 races this weekend. But Taylor Lawrence now has gone to take pole position with 2 minutes to go. 47.1, that's the fastest lap time we've seen all weekend in the pit bike 140s. Lap record 46.7 by Max Cook, so there's a little bit of time to come in the circuit. But yeah, Taylor Lawrence, we saw him do a 47.2 earlier in the weekend, so we know that he's capable of that sort of pace, and now he's gone out and set that fastest lap of the weekend for him and for everyone, so that will consolidate him on pole position if it stays like this.
Yeah, and it never really does in the pit bike 140, so we've got plenty of time to go. There's still over a minute and a half to go, which means that, well, we can probably see 8 or 9 changes within the top 10, as into the top 10 does go Callum Wybrow into 8th position there, the rider from Warnerhurst, and he then immediately gets dropped down by Adam Sweeney. This is exactly what we were just talking about, but it is still Taylor Lawrence leading away from Rossi Banham. Rossi, who's just about a tenth or half a tenth off of his best time that he set in Q1, so he's still putting in some consistent lap times, and it's good for Rossi to be within that half a tenth between 2 sessions. Yeah,
he still set that 47.3 earlier on, so he's still got his second place regardless of whether Taylor is on a 47.1 or not. So he's still at a good position to start the race, but he's going up, putting out consistent lap times, making sure that he's getting that race rhythm in as well as his qualifying time. But he's going to need, if he wants pole position, he's going to have to put the hammer down a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely so. And we have got just under a minute left in this final qualifying session for the Pit Bike 140s. And of course, we welcome everyone that is watching the live stream of this event today, whether you're at home, whether you're on the road, of course, whether you're sitting in the garden with the barbecue on and a cold drink. We hope you're having a fantastic day. And equally, if you are watching and you want to drop into the comments, let us know where you're watching, who you're supporting, and yeah, it's always good to see you guys chatting away in the comments of all the live streams, whether it's on the FAB-Racing YouTube or Facebook page. Of course, listening live on motorsport.radio, the world's only 24/7 motorsports dedicated radio show, from all things 2 to 4-wheel, and sometimes even 3 with the mini F1 sidecars. The checkered flag is just about to come out, and in fact it's just flown for the Pit Bike 140s, and it is Taylor Lawrence that has managed to do a 47 flat, so going even quicker at the end of that session.
Yeah, getting pushed really hard by Rossi Banham. Rossi matching that 47.1 that Taylor did, but Taylor with a 47 flat at the end of that one to secure his pole position. It will be him lining up on pole ahead of Rossi Banham on number 196, Pit Bike 140. British Talent Cup rider will line up in second place on the grid. Ahead of the number 62, Chris Wells. He had a good lid last time out. Jamie King, your Pit Bike 140 champion from 2020, will line up in 4th, ahead of Reece Peacock. Ben Jolliffe, who's having to go on a pit bike, as well as the GP70 that he's riding in the junior classes as well. He will line up in 6th, ahead of Nathan Riggy, Jack Andrews, Adam Sweeney and Callum Wybrow. That will be your top 10 for this session, but of course these guys also have lap times that they set in Q1 as well.
They do, and we will bring you the grid as and when we get it confirmed, and they'll be out for their first race of the weekend later on today, so make sure you do not miss that one. The Pit Bike 140s is always an absolute show from all 30 bikes out on circuit. Next up, well, we've got the Mini GP 50s, I believe it is, that's going to be making their way out on circuit. And the GP 50s, you've got the likes of Bill Harris, who we spoke to earlier on. As you can see, everyone chilling in the paddock, even our furry friends, and definitely having a cold glass of water. Exactly what I could do with right now. But yeah, the GP 50s, we've got a couple of new riders so far this weekend, and one, of course, that we spoke to was Archie Gibbs. Now, what is that transition? He said that it's just learning the gearing and, of course, coming out of corners and changing gears out of corners. How difficult is it to go from those mini motos with no gears up to these geared bikes?
The big thing for them when they move up, like you say, is learning the gears, is learning the clutch, your rear brake being on your foot rather than on your left hand, and obviously the gears, how gears work, how to best use a gearbox to get the best, to utilise it to get the best sort of lap possible, the best race pace possible. So there's a lot to learn there, as well as the height of the bikes. They're quite a bit higher than they're used to. They're further away from the ground. They're a little bit heavier, but obviously these bikes, they're not terribly heavy. So it does give them it gives them a little bit of an idea of what to expect when they get onto the big tracks. And it's a formula that's worked for so long. We've seen, like we've said in before the show, there's so many names that have come through these GP50 and GP70 bikes and have gone on to do great things. I mean, the list goes on. If you go on the FAB-Racing website and on the Wall of Fame, there's so many names on there. Names like Scott Redding, Danny Kent that we've mentioned. And this formula seems to work, obviously. Yeah, and it is very popular in the paddock, and we speak to riders every time we come to a circuit, and they are all very complimentary of these Metrokit bikes and enjoy going out there. And as we heard from a couple of them earlier on, some of them like the travel that the bike has across the circuit. Some say it's a little bit slidier than the 70s, and well, you often find that some riders like that, some riders don't like it. So it's all about adapting your style, and one rider has really adapted his style to be pretty strong so far is Clayton Edmonds, the 146, clean sweep back at lid, 6 from 6. Can he be stopped this season? Because he's looking incredibly good on that bike. Yeah, he's looking really strong. Set was under the lap record earlier on in the weekend. Of course, it won't stand as an official lap record as it wasn't set in the race, but it looks good for him and it looks good for his championship campaign. Of course, 100% win rate for Clayton so far this year. We saw him in the GP50s last year, was very strong, knocking on the doors of podiums, getting some podiums and some wins. Won a couple of races at the last round of at Red Lodge, incidentally as well. That was in the rain, of course, but I mean, he looks so strong here in the dry. It looks very smooth, very confident out there on the GP50. Getting extra track time as well on the 70, which we saw him do last year as well. And it's working for him. He's out there. He looks confident. He looks strong. And he's out the front of this championship. At the moment, it is Marco that's at the top of this session, but there's plenty of time to go in this session. Still 5 minutes for these guys. And well, it's the same from 2 wheels to 4 wheels to as many wheels as you want. The best thing for some of these riders that may be in the race with Clayton is if you race someone that's faster than you, you automatically get faster. You tend to gravitate towards them. So we've heard from Marco Holt, we've heard from many others just saying being on track with someone that just drags you along, it helps them. Yeah, and they all mention one name when you ask who they think that their rivals are and who they're looking out for, and it's Clayton, and it's because he's been so consistent and so dominant. They're looking to him, and like you say, they'll learn off him, and that will drag them and make them quicker. And the likes of Marco Holt, Archie Gibbs, they look very determined. But of course, Archie Gibbs, the number 3, moving up from the mini moto up to the GP50. It's his first weekend racing the GP50 machine. He has had some track time on it before coming here this weekend, but it's going to be his first weekend. We've seen him so strong at the front of the mini moto classes, giving Archie O'Brien a run for his money on a few occasions. Of course, Archie O'Brien in the mini moto class is very strong, but Archie Gibbs on the number 3, this will be his debut weekend, so it's going to be really interesting to see how he copes with the GP50 machine. Yeah, and he's putting some good lap times at the moment. He's only 0.2 of a second off of Marco Holt, who's currently leading this session by just over 3 or
700ths of a second roughly. But and then Archie Gibbs back there as well. So he's putting in some good times. He's up ahead of Harry Payne. Harry Payne is, I said back in the day, probably the smiliest rider in the Fab paddock. Always such a nice lad to talk to. And Harry's one of those riders that's just on the cusp of that podium, isn't he? A couple of 5th places and then 4 solid 4th place finishes at Lidge. You've got to think that he's just on the edge of that first podium.
And he pushes himself, which is incredible to see on the number 11. I mean, he didn't even expect to be riding Metro kits last year, and this year he's riding in the 50s and in the 70s. So he's pushing himself really hard, and he's progressing faster than he or his family would have thought. So it's incredible to see that, and I expect him to see him on the podium and knocking on the door of race wins by the end of the season. Of course, we have had that 12-week gap, so a lot of these guys have been able to train a little bit in between these rounds, get more used to the Metro kit machines, because of course Clayton has already had a season on the bike, and a lot of these guys are in very sort of the beginning of their careers on a 50cc machine and on gearbox machines.
Yeah, and this is something I've talked to you about as a racing novice, of course, you with your racing career, is that track time is so important for these guys, especially at this age. You just want to be on a circuit as much as possible.
Yeah, and these are the years where they need to be getting that track time in and really hammering in those fundamentals, the basics, and the racecraft. Absolutely everything needs to start being learnt from them early on, and we know that formula works, and because obviously we've seen the likes of Rory Skinner, who got his first British Superbike podium at the weekend at Knock Hill. He came through these classes and did exactly that. He was learning his racecraft, learning how to ride these bikes and how to get a good lap time out of a bike and then good race rhythm out of a bike and all those basic fundamentals. And he's gone on to do great things like so many others. I think Roger was saying that at the weekend at British Superbikes, they had ex-FAB-Racing riders on the podium in every single category.
It's such a fantastic place to be and place to start your career. And we see riders coming in, of course, from the ages 6 and up, starting, and they'll go out there and, well, first time out, you might look like a bit of a deer in headlights, but they just get quicker and quicker and quicker. And the confidence you see through some of these riders just absolutely flows through them. And they might come in and be a bit shaky around, but as soon as it comes to the end of the season, they're out there, they're marching through the paddock and they're straight out on the bike. You see so many riders, and if they go down, they're straight back up, straight on the bike, so driven, just keep going. It's fantastic to see that. It's such a fantastic mindset for a young person to have.
Marco Holt out there has exactly that mindset and looking very, very strong. Really pushing Clayton Edmonds in this session. He's only less than 1/10 of a second away from Clayton, and Clayton went faster than he did in Q1. So it looks like it's between these two for pole position. Can Marco Holt does. He goes pole position with a 47.9. That is the fastest lap out of the 2 qualifying sessions. So with 40 seconds to go, he's looking very good. What can Clayton do? Yeah,
this is it's going to be a big lap for Clayton Edmonds, because he needs to snatch Marco Holt's pole time. And well, with 30 seconds left to go in this session, it's a huge lap for the 146 if he wants to line up on pole position. But Marco, once again, another solid lap, and he's out there racing alongside Bill Harris as they're just following each other through the back end of the circuit here, this Red Lodge circuit, 1,200 metre long, opened in 1994 in Suffolk, down towards the other side of Bury St Edmunds and Cambridge. Lovely part of the world here, and it's a very flat circuit. It does allow these riders just to flow through some of these corners, and well, as the checker flag comes out, it looks as though across the line Clayton Edmonds is becoming very, very shortly. What can he do on this final time around? Archie Gibbs is coming up to the line. He's currently in 3rd place in class, and he finishes off with a 48.661, which is 200ths of a second slower than Harry Payne.
Yeah, so good debut for Archie Gibbs into the top 3. Just getting knocked out of the top 3 by Harry Payne right at the end there. But looks like it's going to be Marco Holt that's going to take that pole position. He's come across the line. Has Clayton come across the line yet? He has, so it is Marco Holt that is going to take that pole position. It is going to be Clayton Edmonds in second. So the first time so far this season, we've really seen someone get the better of Clayton.
Yeah, maybe that's a chink in the armour, and Marco, well, that's the perfect thing you need, is just to maybe get under Clayton's skin a little bit there, just knowing that he can find a bit of an advantage over him. And of course, they'll be out later on this afternoon for their first races. We've got all the race ones later on today, whether that be the AC40 rookies, the AC40 Pros, Senior Mini Motos, LC40 Elites, Pit Bike 140s, Mini GP50s, the Extreme 200s, the Mini F1 sidecars, the GP70s, and of course Moto teams. So much racing to come later today, so make sure you tune in and well, enjoy it. It's going to be fantastic. It's a great day, and everyone's had a smile on their faces. They've all looked forward to this one. It's been such a long time that we've all had to wait to be back, and finally we're here. And well, if you're Marco Holt, he'll be strolling back into the paddock now, probably the biggest smile of everyone.
Absolutely. Like we said, they were all targeting Clayton, and it's only qualifying, so he's got 3 races to go out and score points and try and give him some sort of championship hope, with Clayton being so strong at the front of the GP50, of course, taking every single win so far. So can Marco Holt be the first person to dethrone the number 146 of Clayton Edmonds? We will have to wait and find out, but I'm looking forward to that one. But coming up next is going to be the Extreme 200s as they go out on circuit. These bikes, similar to pit bikes, but just slightly different in that all these are converted motocross machines, but these aren't the Extreme 200s, or are they?
I hope they are. As yeah, we've got the Extreme 200s.
They are, sorry.
So I thought you're meant to be the one that rides bikes. But yeah, well, and also you can see they roll across the grass as well as they roll across the tarmac, as proven there by some of the riders as they roll out. We've got the likes of Chris Wells, Reece Peacock, Jack Andrews, Nathan Riggy, James Dutton, Mott Mobbs, a new name to the championship. He'll be joining us here on the 110 bike. Aston Gilson and Ashley Thompson out there on these Extreme 200s. And well, a little birdie told me this weekend that Tristan Finocchiaro's got his eye on the Extreme 200s.
I wouldn't mind a go. I have a bike that's eligible, so maybe in the future.
Well, yeah, we'll look to see that. If you've got a bike that's eligible, I'm going to have a go. But
why not? We'll do Moto team. We'll be tag team.
I know we've talked about this. We reckon we'd be the best Moto team class out there. It's almost like when you're endurance, you set your slowest person out there, and then you just let the second person come in and just make up all the time that they've lost. But the Extreme 200s out there, Chris Wells, he's currently going around. He's done a 49.674 as they all just get up to speed in this second and final qualifying session. And you'll usually see, same as the pit bikes in the Extreme 200s, this is the category where it's slightly older riders. They come down, they enjoy some track time. They're not afraid to get their elbows out, are they?
No, not at all. Not at all. We see plenty of BSB riders in this class, just like you say in the pit bike 140s, and also riders just a little bit older, having a bit of fun out here on these. They're really fun bikes to ride on, really fun little circuits. And FAB-Racing puts a brilliant event out for them to go out there and have a bit of fun. We'll win some medals or not, and bash each other around a little bit, as we see them always do. But it's James Dutton who's at the front of this one at the moment in this session. Only 2 laps done for all of these guys. Still plenty of time left to go in this qualifying 2 session for them. James Dutton, a rider who we've seen over in the British Superbike paddock as well, in classes like the Junior Supersport class. So like we always see, plenty of, well, only one this time, but normally we see a few more British Superbike riders in the Extreme 200.
You think surely they're all out enjoying the sun at the moment. It wouldn't surprise me if they're all sitting in the paddock just waiting this one out, thinking, I'll just enjoy this session here and go out for a race a little bit later on, because we usually see the likes of Harvey Claridge, of course, Harrison Crosby, Charlie Nesbitt, Rossi Banham. They're all riders. Evan Belford, of course, former champion here at FAB, made his way up to the British Talent Cup. They've made their way through, and they come back down to the Extreme 200s, and it is always a show that they put on. And the Extreme 200s, it's not like some of the other categories we have where you may have one rider does particularly well every week. Race wins go everywhere. So far, we've only had Evan Belford picking up 2 wins on the season out of 6. So, yeah, you can find yourself starting much the same as pit bikes, finding yourself in starting down the order, but finishing on the top of the podium. Yeah, and Evan Belford, a rider that we've seen, like we were talking about earlier, that Road to MotoGP that FAB-Racing creates. He was one of the MKGP70 champions from a couple of years back, and now has moved up to the British Talent Cup and won the last 2 races at Knock Hill. So again, and he can come here and still practice, train, hone in on his skills. So even once they've left the paddock, these riders can still come back and train and use FAB-Racing to their advantage, which is brilliant to see. I mean, we see loads of them do it, but Evan Belford's a clear example, going over and winning over at British Talent Cup,
Casey O'Gorman's another one that we've seen do that. Unfortunately, Casey had a very big incident back at Knock Hill, but he's a rider that we've seen come up through here. He's gone over to British Talent Cup. It's British Talent Cup so far has been pretty much between Evan Belford and Casey O'Gorman. Yeah, which is it was great for Fab, because all it does, and it's the same thing, it's these young riders are looking, maybe the rookies, the pros, they see that progression. It's very difficult in some, especially over in four wheels. Obviously, you know that it's almost a barrier to ascend, but here they can see the difference between what's possible as a pro and what's or as an AC40 pro, and what's possible between someone in the British Talent Cup. And it looks like a Charlie Nesbitt who comes down, and he often just says to us when we're talking to him, I'm here for the kids, I'm here to mentor them, to show them what they need to be doing. He'll give them tips, he'll just walk around to random tents in the paddock and just offer out some advice. Yeah, and we saw Chris Wells there slowing up, but yeah, like you say, all these riders being able to go up through the ranks, and they can come back, and it's good to see that they can come back, because obviously it's such a friendly environment here at FAB-Racing as well. So all these riders that have been up and through, they don't have to leave. It's not like they're leaving Fab forever. They can come back and have a little bit of fun. But it is James Dutton who is 1.2 seconds ahead of anyone else so far in this session for the qualifying two for the Extreme 200s. Of course, 2 qualifying sessions that all classes get in FAB-Racing, and their fastest time from both sessions will decide where they start on the grid. But James Dutton looking very dominating in this one, ahead of Chris Wells, the number 62. We saw he had a problem and was slowing up, so we'll have to find out what happened there. Perhaps he went a little bit quicker in Q1 earlier on to set himself in the sights for pole. But if you look at James Dutton now 1.4 ahead, it doesn't look like anyone's really going to be able to challenge him. No, he's really motoring around this Red Lodge circuit, and no one really able to touch him. Chris Wells currently second position with a 47.1 compared to the 45.6 for James Dutton. So the 4.41 of James Dutton currently obliterating the rest of the field. Chris Wells, Reece Peacock second and third, Nathan Riggy in fourth, and Rossi Banham currently out there in fifth position. And Rossi, well, he's out there in the pit bikes usually, he's out there on the extremes as well. He, as you say, he's another one of those that's progressed up through into the BSP paddock, and comes down very friendly in the paddock, and he seems to turn it on every now and then. You often see he gets involved in these battles on circuit, and we've often seen him going toe to toe with the likes of Charlie Nesbitt, the likes of course last season Eddie O'Shea as well, and a couple of wins so far this season for Rossi, and I'm sure we'll see a little bit more of the 196 throughout the rest of the weekend. Yeah, Rossi running in this class on a pit bike 140, which is why he's slightly lower down than what we're used to seeing him. Because of course, the riders at the front, the likes of James Dutton, they'll be on bikes such as Honda CRF 150 or the KTM SX 85 or even 105, and these bikes are all converted motocross bikes, converted to do a little bit of supermoto around these kart tracks, and they do have quite a bit of an advantage on power and handling and pretty much everything over the pit bike 140s. So and we've even seen in the past where Charlie Nesbitt hasn't been able to ride his Honda CRF 150, and he's had to go out on the pit bike 140, and he was a good couple of seconds off where we're normally used to seeing him. Yeah, and it's a fantastic category, a lot of fun, these riders coming down, and it's James Dutton, however, taking the checkered flag and absolutely obliterating that final qualifying session. 45.517, went even faster, and at 5.16 he's just been knocked down by a thousandth of a second, so he takes pole position in this one, 1.6 seconds ahead of Chris Wells. And just going back to the obviously the fact that we get a lot of these riders coming back down into the likes of the extremes, what's the benefit of them coming down to Fab where they are mainly kart circuits, or of course like smaller unit circuits, compared to the expansive big circuits, the likes of Donington, the likes of Silverstone, Knock Hill, Cadwell, the likes of that? So what's the benefit of coming down where it's so tight and twisty? Well, training. I mean, if you look at all the riders out in Europe, the Spanish and Italians that are dominating the classes in over in the MotoGP paddock and in the World Superbike paddock, they are on a bike constantly, all the time. They're riding something. They're out training. They even train on 600s on kart tracks, and they're constantly on a bike. And that's what these guys need to be doing. And they understand that. And they do track days at these kart tracks, and they come and do Fab Racing, which also gives them a little bit of fun, gives them so they can go and race each other as well. So it's a brilliant platform for them to come here and enjoy their racing as well, because that's one thing you need to make sure you're doing. If you're not enjoying your racing, you won't be doing well. So these guys come here, make sure they're having a bit of fun, make sure they're still enjoying riding a bike, and it works for them, because we see the riders that come here, they do very successfully over at that in the British paddock as well.
Yeah, and it is a proven winning category, but well, it is an absolutely beautiful day here from Red Lodge over towards the other side of Bury St Edmunds, and everyone out enjoying themselves. Hopefully you've all got some sunscreen on. The sun is beaming down, and you are joining myself, Gareth Hall, and Tristan Finocchiaro as we bring you the rest of the action this weekend. A couple more qualifying sessions left to go, and then all of the race ones left to go this weekend. And we've already had a pretty strong qualifying start for the likes of Marco Holt. Will be very happy with his MKGP 50 pole position. Equally, the likes of Archie Gibbs, he was pretty strong as well. He'll be happy on that new bike.
Yeah, it was good to see that in the GP50s. GP50s this year, we're seeing a lot of riders taking that step up from the mini moto classes up into the GP50, which is great to see, and it's a perfect example of that stepping stone that FAB-Racing provides. And then we see them move up into the 70s, which we are yet to see later on. The Premier class of FAB-Racing is looking exciting as well. We have had Ethan Sparks, who's been so dominant in that, but now Mason Foster looks to be the one to beat this weekend.
Yeah, Mason very, very strong indeed. Last year, of course, picked up the Mark Howell Trophy, which was the trophy given to the overall class winner throughout the weekend. And Mason already putting in some hot laps so far this weekend. They'll be out on circuit after this mini F1 sidecars. And if you look up the definition for crazy, you'll find a picture of sidecar racers, as you can see leaning over the side of the bike, holding on for dear life. And, Jason and Leo Greenstreet, the number 90 machine, really turning on so far this week and doing a very good job so far.
Yeah, absolutely. Father and son on that number 90 outfit, doing really well on the number 90, really enjoying themselves around this Red Lodge circuit. Had an eventful lid, I think we can say. A little bit of grass tracking, a few problems, a little bit of everything, but they're out there enjoying their racing, and that's what FAB-Racing is all about, and that's what this mini F2 sidecar class is all about. The number 26, Mick Williams and Mark Parker out the front, they are a very, very dominant force in this category. We never really see anyone really coming close to them, and I mean, it's only been 2 laps, but they're already 2.9 seconds ahead of everyone else, and I think that's what we can expect to see. But the likes of Jason Greenstreet, Mark Parker, Adrian Ems, we can expect to see them trying to get as close as they can, but it is a tall order.
It is, and Mick Williams and Michael Elms, very much seen in the mini F1 sidecars in FAB, is almost the Lewis Hamilton, the Valentino Rossi, the Sebastian Loeb. They're almost untouchable when they're on form. But we've seen Adrian and Claire Ems pick up a class win last season as well, and these bikes are a little bit more robust, aren't they, compared to the bikes on 2 wheels. So, I mean, as you say, Lid was very entertaining. There was a lot of side-to-side contact. We had a couple of offs, and, they made up for what is a pretty sensational class, even if you've got Mick Williams and Michael Elms that just go out for a bit of a Saturday and Sunday drive.
Yeah, and they have to run a slightly different layout here at Red Lodge. Of course, they're not using that infield section. They're not using the hairpin on the infield and the loop back round to the back straight. They cut out at turn 1. They cut straight to the back straight, which means a bit of a shorter lap for these guys because they can't quite fit those outfits round the tighter section. But it's still such an incredible circuit we have here at Red Lodge, and it's incredible to see these guys. But you will notice, of course, that they're not using the whole infield.
No, they won't. And in fact, because I believe they were here last time, we've got Mick Williams and Michael Elms, who have just gone faster, a 36 flat, 3.7 seconds faster than anyone else, as Mark Parker and Jason and Leo Greenstreet, 0.003 of a second is the split between those two. So you can see it is that 26 bike that really does streak ahead. And as you said, they use a slightly different layout. There is the weather when we were here last year was the tail end of November, so it was a bit greasy, it was a bit slippery. So now I would imagine this would be a race lap record, because I haven't got one listed for the Mini F1 sidecar. So I'd imagine that's what we'll find from this bunch, is that Mark Parker, Mick Williams and Michael Elms will go out there and absolutely smash a purple lap. And well, it's a 36 flat in qualifying. Can we see them dipping under the 36s come the race?
Well, it's good conditions for it, so I wouldn't be surprised. And when you've got a rider or a rider and a passenger doing so well at the front and being so dominant and so much faster than anyone else, you almost just sit and watch, and you want them to go even faster. You want to see how far they can push the limits and how far they can take that gap to the guys in second place. But Mark Parker doing well, and the number 230 to be ahead of the rest of the field. Mick Williams is sort of a given first place, so it's sort of a battle between the rest. But Mark Parker doing well to be just ahead by almost nothing ahead of Jason Greenstreet.
Yeah, you can see they're lifting a tyre off the ground, and that is how important your passenger is. They're the ones that need to put their entire body weight to make sure that all three tyres are doing the right thing. Of course, as soon as you lift a tyre, you're losing all that adhesions, and that was John Keats as you can see a slap on the back as they cross the line, as they just get back on and trying to set a fast lap. We've got 2 minutes and 35 seconds left to go in this one. It's currently Mick Williams, Michael Elms on a 36.094, 3.7 seconds ahead of Mark Parker, who's got a 3 thousandths of a second between himself and Jason and Leo Greenstreet, of course, father and son. And then equally down in 8th position, you've got Dave and Iona Glover, father and daughter, riding as passengers. So that's a dad that's willing to risk his daughter, just getting her to grab on as they fly around the circuit. But we usually see Iona out on her own bike as well. She'll be out there on the pit bike 140s, I'd imagine. And it's great to see. It's not just we've seen over the last sort of year or so that the female representation in FAB is really starting to grow.
Yeah, and it's also something we're seeing as well in the mini moto classes, the sort of the next generation of young riders. We're seeing a lot of female riders in there. If you look at the AC40 rookies entry lists and grids, there's plenty of female riders in there, a lot more than we're used to seeing in racing. So that is the next generation, and we're going to be seeing more and more come up, and it is really brilliant to see. And we do see a few of them over in the motor team, also in the mini F2 sidecars, which is brilliant to see. A couple of married couples in this class as well.
Yeah, Claire and Adrian Ems, and it is great to see these guys. And there's definitely a lot of camaraderie between the sidecar riders and passengers, because they have to be quite nice to each other, because it's very easy to get it wrong. We saw Rara, I believe it was last season, where Jason just left Leo at the start of the lap. Unfortunately, just wasn't able to hold on to this one. But that is how important your rider is. You want to make sure that they are doing their job, and equally, if you're the passenger, you want to make sure the driver is not being too erratic that it does throw you off. But it is still Mick Williams and Michael Elms with just under a minute left to go in this final qualifying session for the Mini F2 sidecars, leading away from Mark Parker. Jason and Leo Greenstreet, still that 3 thousandths of a second gap between second and third. Adrian Ems has jumped up into 4th place at 4.6 seconds off the lead with a 40.702, and then Vince Bailey down in 5th place on a 3.69. Dave and Iona Glover on the 3 bike there down in 8th place. They'll be looking at improving. The couple from Scunthorpe up north, and they've made their way down to this East Anglia part of the world to come to this circuit. And Iona there looks as though, in fact, it looks as though they might have swapped over and she's gone to being rider. Usually I think it's the other way around.
Yeah, usually it is Dave that's man. I think they do swap it round and have a go on it. From what I've heard from speaking to them, they do have a go to see which one suits which role best. But it's hardly ever we ever really see a change in during a race weekend.
Yeah, and Iona, the 18-year-old, she's out there and just testing out, seeing what she gets around this circuit. As you can see there, the Greenstreet's on the 90 as Leo really leaning across it. It's so fascinating to see these guys, just how much they have to put body weight and just the movement to get between themselves and keeping all 3 wheels on the track surface. But that is the end of qualifying for the Mini F2 sidecars, and it is going to be Mick Williams, Michael Elms, as we expected, 3.7 seconds faster than anyone. And in fact, we say 3.7 seconds, that's actually a little bit slower than what they usually are. We usually see them around that 5-second mark. So it's good to see that Mark Parker and equally Jason and Leo Greenstreet turning on a little bit, starting to bridge that gap.
Yeah, I mean, give them a little bit of credit. It is only a 36-second lap, so if they were 5 seconds quicker than anyone else, I think we'd definitely be in for a Mick Williams victory, which I'm sure we will be anyway. We don't want to jinx any of these guys, though, of course. So dominant in this category, and it is so brilliant to see. And it is, like we said, it's almost like you want to see him go even quicker and see how much he can stretch that gap to 5 seconds, like you say. But going out on circuit now, you can hear the two strokes. It is the MKGP 70s. This is the premier class at FAB-Racing for the junior riders. Their last step before they move out of FAB-Racing and up into onto the big tracks, the likes of the British Talent Cup, the likes of Junior Supersport.
Yeah, and of course we've seen that in last season's champion Lucas Brown moving up to the British Talent Cup. The likes of Johnny Garness, runner-up in that championship, he moved up to the British Talent Cup. Of course, Evan Belford, former champion, he's moved up to the British Talent Cup. It is the perfect place to finally just finish off learning your trade, up to the big tracks and getting onto those slightly quicker bikes and on to the likes of the Silverstone circuit, or some of the most iconic circuits from British motorsport. And this time around, it's going to be the likes of Ethan Sparks, it's going to be the likes of Philip Soroviak, Mason Foster. What can Ollie Horner do? Ollie Horner had a pretty strong 2020 season, hasn't quite turned it on so far this season.
Yeah, it's been really competitive this year in the MKGP 70s. It was last year as well, but this year, there's a lot of names at the front of this one. Ethan Sparks, Philip Soroviak, Ronnie Harris is a front runner from the GP 50s as well. Ollie Horner was so strong last year. Henry McCartney is a name that we know can do really, really well as well. Really nice, smooth lines from the number 31. And so there's plenty of names that potentially could be winning races here. So Ollie's doing quite well in all honesty, because there's so much going on and it's so close between all of these guys. But he is a rider we expect to see to be pushing podiums and be pushing victories as well. But it looks as if we have a problem for Clayton Edmonds, who's pulled to the site of the circuit on his MKGP 70 machine. He took second in the MKGP 50s earlier, so just stopping at the side of the circuit seemed to get whatever that was fixed.
Yeah, he's back underway, so good for Clayton. He can get back under and look to beat the time that he set earlier on today of 46.358. Currently we've got Ethan Sparks, who's going around, he's just under 46.2, so they are still a while off of Mason Foster's first qualifying session time, which was a 55.015, so a second to find. And in fact Mason Foster then goes into the 45s, does a 45.8, so they'll just do some laps. It's only the start of the session. They've got just over 5 minutes left to go of this second qualifying session of the day for the Mini GP 70s, and the times will fall as Charlie Huntingford goes to the top of 55.836, and Charlie making that step up from the LC40 Elites last season, just agonisingly missing out on the championship by 1 point in the final race.
Yeah, he must have felt so disappointed after missing out on a championship by 1 point, but he's still got second place in the Premier class for the mini motos for the junior classes, and he's now here at the Premier class for the Metro Kits and the GP70s. We did see him having to go on a GP50 as well last year, as Mason Foster goes to the top of this qualifying 2 session. Still not quite as quick as what he did earlier on. A 45.0 is what it takes to be on pole in this MKGP 70 class. Of course, the lap record, they've gone about half a second under it. It won't stand, of course, because it's qualifying. It'll only stand if it's in a race. But it just shows how quick these guys are and how competitive this GP70 class is this year. And Ethan Sparks trying to push Mason Foster all the way, but Mason looking so strong around Clay Pigeon.
And we talked about this a little bit early on before the racing started, is that these riders, they know what the lap records are. We talked about Archie O'Brien, and he had a fall in one of his races at Lid, and you asked him what was the fall for you. I was chasing the lap record. So it is something they want. These riders, they know the target they're going for.
Yeah, and it cost him a victory, but he knew what he wanted, and he still got third place. So Archie O'Brien really strong in some of the other classes, in the mini moto classes, and we'll expect to see him moving up the GP50s, up to the GP70s, and joining these guys if they haven't already moved on to British Talent Cup. But Mason Foster, this is his second season in the MKGP 70s, so we could expect possibly to see him in the British Talent Cup next year. Ethan Sparks, I'm sure he's got his sights set on that or similar. Also, a lot of riders we see go over to the European Talent Cup as well, so they'll have their sights on that because they'll want to go out there, show Europe, show the rest of the world what they can do and how strong these Fab Racing riders are.
And this is something you managed to do when you were coming through. You went and did some of the European circuits. What's it like for a rider that goes out and just gets to test themselves against someone that's not just perhaps some of the riders you've grown up with and you've raced with, and going out and racing at like Portimao or Jerez or some of the other circuits? It's
difficult. And a lot of people have said that it's almost like a different sport when you go out to Europe and to European style circuits, because the circuits are so different to the circuits we have in the UK. The style of riding is completely different, so it's almost like learning a new sport. A lot of riders that come to BSB say that. A lot of riders that go out of BSB say it, and it is difficult, but riders have made it work, and if anyone can make it work, it's these guys coming up through the classes, the next generation of British talent.
Yeah, absolutely so. And one of those is Ethan Sparks. Now, Ethan is coming off I say he's coming off the tail end. He's currently on a 5-win streak. He unfortunately crashed out of race 1 of the season. He said to us that he just took a little bit too much speed into the final corner, went down, and unfortunately that cost him the race win. But since then, he's been on fine. Of course, he's the reigning GP50 champion. Ronnie Harris, the runner-up. We also spoke to Ronnie earlier on in this weekend, and he thinks he's right on the cusp of that podium. So the likes of Ethan, the likes of Ronnie moving up from the 50s into the 70s straight on the pace, it shows you that they've really got that potential to make that next step up to the British Talent Cup, make that next step up onto the BSB paddock. But you can't wash over the likes of Mason Foster. Philip Soroviak, who's come out of nowhere. I think it was he put up on his social media the other day that it was almost a year to the day that he entered Fab for the first time, was finishing in 13th position this season round. Well, he won in class over race 1, with a hat-trick of second places, then three more podiums in round 2. So Philip, really impressive so far.
Yeah, his best result last year was 5th place back at Rowra. He was 14th overall in the GP50s last year, and now he's moved up to the GP70s, and he's even stronger in the GP70s than he was in the GP50s. But Mason Foster goes pole in the first ever 44-second lap around Red Lodge with a 44.9. So that's Mason Foster consolidating his pole position after doing a 45 flat earlier on in qualifying 1. Is anyone going to be able to get close to that?
That is an absolute mega lap from Mason Foster, and we know how confident he is around here, and he was so nonchalant when I was talking to him. He knows that he's good around here, and well, the 88 bike smashes that time, a 44.9. Charlie Huntingford putting it up into second place there. Great lap from Charlie, holding Ethan Sparks, Philip Soroviak up 8, Clayton Edmonds up in 5th place, Ollie Horner down in 6th. Henry McCartney, he's probably going to be a little bit disappointed with that time so far. He was looking quite racy in practice and in Q1, but the checkered flag is now coming out, and Mason Foster is going to take pole position by half a second ahead of Charlie Huntingford. And unless we see any more improvements as Harry Payne jumps up ahead of Luke Schofield into 9th place. But Mason will be going back into the paddock absolutely delighted with that one. As you say, almost just consolidating his pole position he was already holding on to.
And if no one goes quicker than Charlie Huntingford, that will be him on to the second place on the grid, because the second fastest lap from Q1 was Ethan Sparks with a 45.5, and that won't be able to beat Charlie Huntingford's 45.4. So that it looks like it is going to be Mason Foster on pole ahead of Charlie Huntingford. Ethan Sparks is going to be on the second row of the grid. That's the first time we've seen that from him this year. So he's going to line up in 3rd place ahead of Philip Soroviak. Clayton Edmonds, who's leading the MKGP 50s, finishes 5th in this session, but of course you've got to take into consideration the times from Q1 as well.
Yeah, so we will bring you the grids as and when we get them confirmed, and they'll be making their way up towards us hopefully very, very shortly. And one more qualifying session, and then it's time for the big time. We go racing very, very shortly. So if you are readying up, make sure you go grab yourself a drink. Make sure you find yourself somewhere comfortable to perch and join us for the entirety of the race ones as we sit here in sunny Suffolk, and it is Red Lodge, and everyone out there enjoying themselves in the sun. Quite a few people under some umbrellas. Hopefully everyone using some sunscreen. We definitely had to use it as got a little bit pink yesterday as we were walking around the paddock having a chat with everyone, and but this time around it looks as though everyone is having a mega weekend, as they should, because finally Fab is back.
Yeah, and it's been such a long wait. We had a long wait for round one, which was rounds 1 and 2 in an action-packed weekend back at Lyd for rounds 1 and 2, and then another 12-week gap before we came here to Red Lodge for round 3. There was meant to be a round in between at Llandow in Wales. That was meant to be round 3, but unfortunately that could not go ahead. So, but we are back here now after a very, very long wait, and it is the Moto team. Race 1 for these guys, or rather the qualifying 2 for these guys. Our producer just confusing us there.
We got very excited in our ears and put poor Tristan off, but we have got the Moto team guys out on circuit. As Moto team, of course, 2 different classes in the Moto team as well. They fought last season to get their own race, and well, they truly deserved it, because we had a fantastic few races, especially up at Rower, as Jason Pugh there, I believe, just getting his gloves off, just having a look at the side of the bike there. And Jason Pugh, I often mention about the fact he's possibly the unluckiest rider in the paddock. Always seems to have an issue with that bike, but when it's working, it really does work, and he's often out there and challenging for race wins. I believe Simon Clow should be with us. I've seen the 133 so far this weekend. He doesn't seem to be out there on circuit at the moment. Is that, in fact, it might, because Tony Campana is here. Tony Campana is here, who stood in for Simon Clow up at Rower a couple of, I think it was round 6 or 7 last season, off the top of my head. But at the moment, it is Jamie King who's decided to run in both the Pitbike 140s and in Moto Team this season. He's got Will Howarth, and Will Howarth, who Will Howarth equally, if he can get that bike working, incredibly fast.
Yeah, and Jamie King's looked really strong in the Moto team, and but it depends what Will Howarth has to say about it, because when Will Howarth comes here, he is a force to be reckoned with, and I believe he has the lap record here as well. I have to double check on that, but I'm pretty sure the number 96 of Will Howarth does hold the lap record around here for Red Lodge, but it is Jamie King who's currently topping this session with a 49.3. Expect those times to come down. Still plenty to go here for the Moto team.
As the 119 of Phil Joyce just also sitting next to Jason Pugh, just having a look at his bike there, possibly just chatting over what could possibly be going wrong. But yeah, you are correct. It is Will Howarth with the fastest lap around Red Lodge, a 47.7. So they're a while off at the moment. So it shows you that when Will Howarth does turn up, that he has that extra gear to kick it into. And at the moment, chasing Jamie King, which isn't a bad thing to do. Jamie, of course, the Pitbike 140 champion from the end of last season, did very nicely indeed, just managing to pick up some consistent results. And Will Howarth equally, well, every time we see him, he seems to be on the podium, whether that be you're standing on top of it in the likes of the senior mini motos, which we might see him on later today. Equally on the bigger bikes, on the Moto team bikes, always goes very nicely indeed, as Jamie out there on his new bike as well. And well, if you've got Will Howarth for a shadow, I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Well, it just seems like Jay King is just holding Will Howarth up a bit here. We've seen how fast Will has been so far this weekend and earlier in Q1, and it just looks like he's got a little bit more than Jay King. So I think Jamie would do well to just sit behind him and try and use him to better his own lap.
Yeah, well, does this play tactically into the minds of Jamie? Is he just trying to keep Will behind and slow him down a little bit, because knowing how quick that 96 is? In fact, Will Howarth last time around did manage to beat Jamie King's time. A 48.142 was
and
just
he's ahead of him
under
now
a tenth of a second, and yeah, he just jumped him. So well, unfortunately, that plan hasn't worked if Jamie was desperately trying to keep him behind, because he's now, as you can see, already breaking the gap between himself and the 76. Darren Anderson on the 133 in third place, with Ian Jackson in fourth. Iona Glover currently now into fifth place into 7th place. My timing screen's a little bit off, but you can see all the riders having to find a little bit of space now. They realise that qualifying is now down to well, there's not too much left to do, so they've all just got to find a little bit of room, try and get that clean air just to get a hot lap in. Well, I can imagine we've only got a few more minutes left in this one, and it's always Moto Team that go out there and put on a show towards the end of the day for everyone.
Will Howarth consolidating his name at the top of the timing screens with a 47.7, getting ever closer to that lap record that would have been set in a race. But Jamie King still second, 0.9 of a second away from Will Howarth at the moment, so it looks as if it's going to be domination from the number 96 once again, but it's all down to the number 76 of Jay King to see what he can do about that Metrokit GP50 machine that Will Howarth is on. Not quite the same as the GP50s you'll be seeing in the GP50 classes for the junior riders. Obviously same base of the bike, but just a little bit more tuned and a little bit more space with bigger handlebars and stuff, as Jay King just gets caught out with a couple of back markers there. Yeah, just a little bit of a pump bashing there. Just got one of the other bikes to stand up and a little bit of a wobble, but back underway is everyone. But Jamie King with 3 wins already on the season. He's yet to finish outside the top 2, so that shows you that he's had a very, very strong introduction into this Moto Team class. And we talked about it earlier about the fact that we'd be the greatest Moto Team pairing of all time, because it is a team sport. This, you can put anyone on that bike and they will score points. It is your bike that scores the points and not the rider. Yeah, so if you're busy for whatever reason and can't make a round, if you give your bike to whoever, you can put them on it and they can go out and score points for you, which is a brilliant system. We've seen it work for Simon Clowes last year when he couldn't ride, which I think was due to injury, and he put Tony Campana on the bike and he went out and scored points for him, and then he ended up taking home the championship. Yeah, so if anyone's got Marc Marquez's number, he might be a good substitute for you. But Jason Pugh, because Jason Pugh, it looks as though he might have pulled back in. So Jason Pugh, who has equally had a pretty good start to the season, a win back at Lid, equally 5 podiums as well alongside that, just can't get that bike working, so he's down back in the box. Ian Jackson, who's up in 3rd place, he's having a good run so far. Ian Jackson, who's had 3 podiums so far, 3 third place finishes, and he'll be looking at challenging towards the podium once again. And, plenty more. Elliot Newton, another new name. He's out there on second on the 107, so it's great to see. And this is something that we spoke to Simon Clowes last season. He said, we just need more riders. We want more people involved. If you've got the bike that's you can use it for the category. Check on the regulations on the FAB website and get involved. It's such a fantastic. They all go sit in the side of the paddock. The tents all go up. They're all sitting there enjoying a drink together at the end of the day. They're all sitting there chatting away during the day, helping each other out. It's a fantastic category of Moto Team. Yeah, and like I say, we need more riders. It's nice to see the grid looking relatively full here for the Moto Team, and new names such as Elliot Newton as the checkered flag goes out. It is Will Howarth that consolidates his pole position for the Moto Team on the number 96 Metrokit GP50 machine. It is Jamie King that is second, and Ian Jackson third in your qualifying 2 session. Well, we will expect to see them out. They'll be the last race of the day, which means we have got so much coming your way. We've got next up Mini Moto, their first race of the weekend. It will be the AC40 rookies making their way out. Of course, this is the first step of that ladder to MotoGP. You might see some of these names in the biggest categories of bike racing in the next 10 to 15 years. We never know. So we have the AC40 coming up very, very shortly. The likes of Olive Hall, the likes of Finlay Bardell, who can do well in this AC40s?
official BSB Partner Series. This is FAB-Racing.
Hello and welcome to the first round of races for the weekend here from Red Lodge. It is round 3 of the FAB-Racing Mini Bike British Championships. My name is Gareth Paul. Joining me as always and for the rest of the season will be Tristan Finocchiaro. We'll be bringing you the rest of the action throughout today's first round of races, and then so much to come tomorrow from a very, very sunny Red Lodge.
Yeah, and it's brilliant to be back here racing after 12 long weeks. We are finally back racing and underway here at Red Lodge. Looking forward to it. Plenty of action to come in all classes, the juniors and the seniors, and also 3 wheels with the sidecars as well.
Yeah, and first up will be the AC40 rookies, then the AC40 pros, so mini bike action coming very, very shortly. Hopefully you're all enjoying a fantastic Saturday afternoon, so make sure wherever you're watching to get in touch, of course going to the FAB-Racing YouTube and Facebook pages. And it is the feeder series for the BSB, official partner of the BSB, the Road to MotoGP. This is the place to be if you want to be part of BSB and MotoGP in the future. The next step of, the first step of the ladder for those that want to be MotoGP stars in the next 10 to 15 years. You will find them here at FAB. So, AC40s coming up very, very shortly. Oliver Hall, Finley Bardell, Zach Pennegar did very nicely back at Lid. But we've got a big grid here, the AC40s rookies, which is great to see. A lot of these riders coming in, perhaps for the first time ever, joining here at this championship. It's the first one. We're back to a championship after a Cup Series last year, so they've all got something to fight for. Yes, where these guys start their racing careers, and it is now a championship again. It was a Cup Series last year, where after a certain amount of points, those riders would move up into the AC40 pros. But now, with it being a championship, these guys can go out and fight for those positions. Riders aged 6 to 13 years old in the AC40 rookies. Riders as young as 5 can enter into this class if they've completed at least sufficient training at FAB or the Mini Moto Racing Academy. They will of course be assessed on the Friday practice day. New riders to this grid, you will find a couple of them further back on the grid with the high-vis vests. Those are riders in their first ever weekend of racing for their first ever season of racing here at FAB-Racing. It is the perfect way to start your career. They're all running on exactly the same engines, the Blatter RM10 motors, with those 10mm exhaust restrictors as well. Yeah, and if you're watching at home, make sure you give these guys some support in the comments. It is always great to hear from you, and equally they will hope to see it from you, because it is incredibly brave of them to be out there, and they do an absolute mega job. And the rider that did the best in qualifying is the 128 Matt Thomas, who had a good end to his first 2 rounds in Lid. He finished in 4th place a couple of times, so solidly just outside the podium. He'll be lining up for a debut pole position with Zach Pennecar, Speed Pennecar, the 134 in 2nd place. Oliver Hall back in 3rd, with Harley Baker making his debut here in FAB in 4th. Beth Ashby, a best qualifying result for Beth, in 5th place, with Jensen Bishop in 6th. Bradley Curtis in 7th, with Finley Bardell down the order a little bit in 8th place, with Annabelle McCarthy in 9th. Chloe Gleason in 10th position. Then you've got Rex Austin, who finished on the podium a couple of times back in Lid, in 11th, with Ollie O'Gorman, of course younger brother of Casey O'Gorman, who's made his way up to the British Talent Cup. Seth Mason Hayward in 13th, with Matthew Jennings in 14th. Taylor Riley in 15th, with Josh Perkins 16th. Then we've got Daisy Polden in her debut weekend here at FAB. Archie Hooper in 18th, Peyton Richards in 19th, and rounding out the top 20 is Oliver Wilson, as we've got a pretty rookie back end of the field, or everyone here, or quite a few of these in their debut weekend. It's great to see them out there, and as you say, they'll be wearing a high-vis jacket, but don't expect them to be going slowly. They all want one thing, that's to win the race. Yeah, and your pole man will desperately be wanting to win this one. His best result so far being 4th position back at Lid in his first weekend of racing on the number 128, but now is on pole position on the number 128 as they wait to get this first race of the year underway. And thank you everyone for tuning in wherever you're watching around the world. Hopefully you drop into comments and let us know where you're from, who you're watching, who you're supporting. Equally, if you're enjoying this Fab Racing event on a sunny Saturday, we are here for Red Lodge, round 3 of the season for the Fab Racing Mini Bike British Championships. Myself, Gareth Hall, and Tristan Finocchiaro bringing you all the afternoon's action here. And kicking us off for the weekend will be the AC40 rookies with Matthew Thomas on pole position, Speed Pennegar in second, Oliver Hall. And, Oliver, we've seen him pick up multiple wins so far this season. He's now got someone to chase.
Yeah, 3 wins back at round 1 for Oliver Hall and 1 second place. 2 DNFs to his name means Finlay Bardell leads the championship as they start their warm-up lap. Oliver Hall's going to be looking to try and rack up the points, get a little bit further up the grid than third. Of course, already won races in the past, like you say. In a good place where he needs to be. He's ahead of Finlay Bardell, who's his title rival at the moment in this one, but it's so early in the season that any of these guys could go on and take it.
Absolutely. And will Matthew Thomas be able to turn that debut podium into a debut win? He lines up on pole position with Zach Pennegar in second, Oliver Hall and Harley Baker round out row 2 in third and fourth. Then you've got Beth Ashby and Jensen Bishop in 5th and 6th position. Bradley Curtis and championship leader after the first 2 rounds, Finlay Bardell, is in 8th place with Annabelle McCarthy and Chloe Gleeson in 9th and 10th. Rex Austin and Ollie O'Gorman round out row 6, with row 7 being Seth Mason Hayward and Matthew Jennings. Row 8, Taylor Riley and Josh Perkins, with Daisy Polden, Archie Hooper in 17th and 18th. And rounding out the final row of the grid is Peyton Richards and Oliver Wilson, with 20 riders all storming down towards the first corner for the first time. And, Matthew Thomas, I'm sure, will be incredibly nervous. First pole position for this young man. He's here looking towards this one. He knows that the win is in sight. Speed Pennegar alongside him. He's yet to climb that mountain to the win. Can he do so here at Red Lodge for the 3rd round of the season? We're getting ready to kick off the racing here on Saturday. Race 1s are coming up very, very shortly throughout all the categories. It will be the AC40 rookies, the youngest category here at FAB, as they all rev the engines, getting ready, just sitting in their pit boxes, waiting for everyone to look to the lights to kick us off for the weekend. As you can see, we've got Matt Thomas, Speed Pennegar, Oliver Hall, Harley Baker, your first 2 rows. They're all on the straight. Everyone else having to come off a little bit of a curve, which doesn't help you too much, but it will be Matthew Thomas leading us away. Who gets the best start? It's a good start there from Speed Pennegar in second. Sweeps around the outside into the lead of this one. Great start from Zach. Behind it is Matthew Thomas, who started from pole position. Oliver Hall, as we've got a rider off to the side, just off to the side of the circuit at turn 1, but already Speed Pennegar, great start. He's trying to charge away, but Matthew Thomas trying to challenge him as they go in towards the hairpin for the first time.
4 podiums to the name of Zach Pennegar, picking up 3 third places and 1 second place back at Lyd for rounds 1 and 2 at the Fab Racing Mini Bike British Championships. Can he get his first win? It's early days, still for plenty of laps to go in this one as he still leads.
As Oliver Hall's dropped down to 4th position off the start, so he's lost a position now, I believe, to Harley Baker. So good start from Harley in his first weekend's racing. And behind it is still Speed Pennegar, Zach Pennegar, the 134, holding off Matthew Thomas, but Matthew's starting to put some pressure on as they come around the final corner to end their first lap. And almost alongside is Matthew Thomas as he comes to sweep around the outside. Speed's got the inside, and he's going to hold that apex and just shut the door and make it very, very difficult for anyone to think about a move around the outside as they come down towards the hairpin for the second time. And Speed doing a good job so far, just holding onto his lines. It's very easy at this age. Just get a bit spooked if you see someone behind you and just make a slight mistake. But Speed Pennegar, there we go. He's just gone a little bit too shallow into the corner, and that opened the door for Matthew Thomas. Swept around the outside, great move.
He's been riding really defensive as Pennegar. You can see him again taking that defensive line, and that's forcing him to go round the outside, which is a hard move to do, but he was definitely trying to do it. All these guys are motivated, and they do want to make those moves stick. Zach Pennegar having a brilliant season so far. 4 podiums, only a 1 DNF back at Lyd. His worst result has been 4th, so a pretty solid season from him so far. But is it going to be a change for the lead as Matthew Thomas tries to go up the inside in does. A very nice move there from Matthew Thomas. Really good drive out the last corner.
Yeah, really good. And these two fighting side by side. And Matthew Thomas, who's showing up in time. And unfortunately, it looks as though Zach Pennegar's not showing up at the moment. So we'll see if we can get that rectified. But it is still... there it goes. It is still Zach Pennegar and Matthew Thomas fighting over the top two positions. Oliver Hall is still sitting behind Harley Baker, and Harley, in fact, breaking out a little bit of a gap between himself and Oliver. So Oliver with some work to do. Always, we've got a rider down there at the exit of turn 2, back on the bike. It looks as though underway. It's very easy, of course. It's a very tight and twisty circuit. Just to get it slightly wrong, it's not just because they're starting their career. You can find that in the outlets. It's quite a difficult circuit, as we heard from the likes of Bill Harris, who said it's quite difficult to transition your way on the bike.
Yeah, it's very tight and twisty, this circuit. Very, very much corner-to-corner circuit. Not a lot of rest around here at Red Lodge's. Riders are making moves all over this grid, but it is now still Matthew Thomas that sets the fastest lap of the race with a 58.3. So it's Matthew Thomas who's flying out the front of this one and still leads ahead of Zach Pennegar, who's not showing up on the timing screens or on the graphics, which could possibly mean transponder issues for Pennegar. He's coming up in 20th. Which either means he doesn't have a transponder on or having some sort of issues. If he doesn't have one, he won't be counted in the race results, which will be unfortunate for Pennegar, considering he's been so solid so far. Yeah, and behind, Oliver Hall now starting to come under real threat from the likes of Jensen Bishop and Beth Ashby. This is probably Beth Ashby's best race so far. She's really starting to put the pressure on the likes of Jensen and Oliver up ahead. She's currently sitting in 5th place on the 8. She did the last time around. She was 1 minute 3 seconds. So she's roundabout sitting, well, almost within a tenth of a second of Oliver Hall, and we know that Oliver has taken multiple wins in this category so far. So Beth doing a great job. She's gapped herself between 5th and 6th. Finley Bardell trying to close in on that battle for the podium, and Finley, who's made up a couple of positions, started in 8th place. He's now found himself up in 7th, and he's got Chloe Gleason, and Chloe's had a good start as well. She started in 10th place, now up to 7th. Yeah, good to see. Good to see these female riders making their debuts in racing into the AC40 rookies class. It's the next generation of riders, and it's brilliant to see battling with the likes of Oliver Hall, who we know is a known front runner in this class. Second in the championship, taken 3 wins so far. The only other rider to have taken 3 wins is Finley Bardell, and those are the two at the top of the championship. Finley Bardell currently down in 7th, and Oliver Hall down in 4th. Depending on whether Speed Pennegar does or does not have his transponder on. But on track, it is Matthew Thomas that is leading ahead of Speed Pennegar and just managing to keep him behind a tiny little bit of breathing space. But of course, still a little bit of time, 3 laps to go in this one, so anything can happen.
Yeah, and Matthew Thomas using the traffic to his advantage there. Just put a couple of bikes in between himself and Zach. And Zach Pennegar still chasing him down. Of course, both these riders eyeing up a first ever win in FAB. Zach, of course, finished on the podium a couple of times back in Lid. 4 podiums, 3 third places and a 2nd place. Matthew Thomas yet to finish on the podium. He's picked up 3 5th places and 3 4th places. So, well, stepping up, if you're going to step up anywhere, top step of the rostrum is exactly where he'd love to be. And at the moment, holding off Speed Pennegar pretty nicely as we come around to start 2 laps left to go in this one. The first race of the day, of course, all the race 1s. And then tomorrow you can join us all day long for race 2s and race 3s here from Red Lodge. And you can listen live on FAB-Racing's Facebook page. And, of course, go into motorsport.radio. And we thank you everyone who's coming to join us here on this Saturday afternoon. Make sure you drop into comments, let us know who you're watching, who you're supporting. It's always great to hear from you. And with 2 laps left to go, it's Matthew Thomas leading his 2nd ever FAB race, because he's done 1 event back at Lid, and now here, new circuit, well, exactly what he needed. And last time round, a 58.1, smashing the lap times.
Yeah, these guys at the front, 9 seconds clear of the likes of Harley Baker and Oliver Hall, Jensen Bishop, Bethany Ashby, all behind these guys. Of course, Harley Baker, the first we're seeing of Harley in the FAB-Racing races. So brilliant to see him already up onto the podium. Really nice to see Matthew Thomas, though, really dominant out the front of this one. What can Zach Pennegar do as we look to Oliver Hall, who's just tucked in behind the rider there, just trying to find his way through. Oliver Hall, Finley Bardell, not what we were expected to see from either of these guys, considering Bardell's worst result so far is P2, and he's currently down in P6.
Yeah, and which means that this championship is going to be open, which
Wide
is great for us. Great. And, well, with one lap left to go, it's Matthew Thomas leading from Zach Pennegar in second position. We're not sure on Zach Pennegar's transponder, but so that shows Harley Baker in second and Oliver Hall in third place. Jensen Bishop and Bethany Ashby are equally fighting over what is now a podium if they can get past Oliver. So Oliver's got a little bit of work to do to hold on to that one, but he is closing in on Harley Baker. It was 0.2 of a second across the line last time around, but Matt Thomas rounding the back end of the circuit. He's going to come across the line very shortly to take the checkered flag, and surely an absolutely delighted young man is Matthew Thomas. Best result so far has been fourth back at Lyd, and he's going to come and take the checkered flag for a first win in Fab. It is Matthew Thomas. Fantastic race there from the pole sitter. Zach Pennegar will come across the line in second, but it will be Harley Baker in second. Does he or do they get to hold off Oliver Hall? It's going to be close across the line between a whole gaggle of bikes, but it is Harley Baker, Oliver Hall, Jensen Bishop, Beth Ashby and Finley Bardell all crossing the line within 1.4 of a second of each other. Chloe Gleeson, she's made her way up to 7th position. She's holding off Bradley Curtis. In fact, Chloe picks up 7th place. A good result for Chloe. That is just short of her best result. Best result for her, 5th place in race 1 of round 2 back at Lyd. Bradley Curtis, he's picked up his best result. There we go for Bradley. Fantastic race there for Bradley. 8th place for him. He picks up a best result, and then 9th place goes to Ollie O'Gorman and Rex Austin, rounding out your top 10.
So a brilliant win from Matthew Thomas ahead of Harley Baker and Oliver Hall. That is your podium for the first race here at Red Lodge. The first race of the weekend and the first race after a long 12-week break that we had between rounds 2 and rounds 3 here at Red Lodge. It was an action-packed weekend back at Lyd. A little bit more mellow this weekend with only 3 races in the weekend instead of 6 per class. But we can expect to see some brilliant racing coming up. Moving up from the AC40 rookies, next will be the AC40 pros. Not quite as much of a packed grid, but we expect to see some great racing.
We do. And tell us, Tristan, what's the difference between an AC40 rookies bike and an AC40 pros bike?
Well, the main difference really is the power that they can run. They're running very similar engines, 40cc, 2-stroke air-cooled engines. But the main difference is the restrictor on the exhaust. In the AC40 rookies, they'll be using the 10mm restrictor, and the AC40 pros they'll be using 14. So just a little bit more power. They also have a little bit more leeway when it comes to manufacturer. AC40 rookies, they have to run those blaster engines. The AC40 pros, they're very open as to what they can run. And
well, the rider that's really made use of it so far has been Archie O'Brien, who was unstoppable in the AC40 pros at Lyd. Took 6 from 6. And Archie Gibbs, well, must have been like chasing shadows all day long, as he just couldn't quite catch up to Archie. And Archie has been in stunning form so far.
Yeah, he's really confident. He told us in an interview that he's just looks to get in his groove, and when he gets in his groove, he's so smooth and so fast on that on both the bikes he's running. Of course, running both in the AC40 Pros and in the LC40 Elites, running on the air-cooled and the liquid-cooled Minimoto machinery. But he's doing brilliantly well on both of them so far, picking up all the wins. The AC40 Pros.
Yeah, and how important is it for these guys to start in these mini motos and just learn the circuits before making their way up onto those metric kit, the MKGP 50?
Oh, it is the perfect place to start. Like we just saw the AC40 rookies, that's where they start their career, then move up into the classes that we're about to see, and then up onto gearbox machinery, and then up onto the big tracks. And it's the perfect place to start. It's the perfect place to learn your skills, learn your fundamentals, the basics, and that's what all these riders are doing. So many names, like we've said so many times, so many names come through it and have done the exact same process, and it's a formula that's proven to work.
Yeah, it does indeed. And you, of course, can go to FAB-Racing's Facebook page, and you, of course, go to their website where you can find out all the regulations, find out how to get yourself on the grid. Of course, we will always accept new people into the Fab Racing community. Come and start your career on the bikes here at Fab. It is the perfect place to be. So if you've just joined us, thank you very much. Hopefully you're having a fantastic Saturday. This is the 3rd round of the Fab Racing Mini Bike British Championships from Red Lodge over over in Suffolk. It is an absolutely beautiful day. Everyone's enjoying themselves. Hopefully you are too. My name is Gareth Hall. I'm joined by Tristan Finocchiaro, and we'll be bringing you the rest of today's action, all of the race ones, and then tomorrow you can join us all day long, race 2s and race 3s. We've got so much coming up later today. We've got the AC40 Pros up next, and of course the LC40 Elites will be out. The seniors will be out there on the mini motos. How do you fit an adult on one of these mini motos? That's always a great race to watch. The likes of Josh Birkin, Bernie Hook, Matt Birkin, Will Howarth might even be out there on the mini as well. And then equally we move up to the big bikes, the likes of the pit bikes, the Extreme 200s. Then you've got your GP bikes, the 50s, the 70s, the sidecars. There is so much to watch, so make sure you don't miss a minute of it. And of course, if you like, share, subscribe, do all the good stuff that you do on social media, and drop into the comments. It's great to hear from you, and it's always enjoyable to see you guys enjoying your Sunday and equally hear who you're supporting in the comments from all around the world. But Tristan, well, we've got plenty of racing come up. 9 more races left to come today. What are you looking forward to?
Oh, that's a tough question. I don't want to say all of it because last time I said that you gave me a little bit of stick for it. But the one I'm most looking forward to at the moment is the AC40 Pros. These guys are going out on circuit again. It's been pretty much domination from Archie O'Brien, so we're going to have to. It's going to be interesting to see what these guys can do to get to beat him and to take another one of those wins away from him. He was pushing so hard at Lyd and it worked. I mean, he took all the wins. Had a crash in one of the classes, and that was because he was trying to chase the lap record, so winning isn't even good enough for him.
No, clearly not. And he gave me a wry smile as I walked past him yesterday, and I was like, how's the racing going? Well, it's good. And you just know that he knows that he's got the pace, he can be on it, and he can really push for this. So I said, what are you looking forward to this weekend? Wins. That's what he wants this weekend. So he's incredibly driven, and the 91 will be out on circuit very, very shortly, making their way. Of course, they've got one green flag lap, a warm-up lap before they roll around to the grid, and it will be Archie O'Brien on pole position for this one. Behind, we've got the likes of Austin Johnson. Austin, great qualifying result for him since moving up to the AC40 Pros at the end of last season, up into onto the front row alongside Archie O'Brien. Great place for him to get to see what Archie can do and try and follow him around.
Yeah, it looks as if Harrison Day just lined up there on second place, and they've just had to move him back and swap him for Austin Johnson. So for whatever reason, Harrison Day thought he was on second place, but Harrison Day is back in fourth on the number 15. And Austin Johnson, one of those, and Harrison Day actually, one of those riders that we've seen move up from the AC40 rookies into this AC40 Pro class. Of course, this class for age for 7 to 13 years, so they're eligible to move up. And it is Archie O'Brien, the dominant force, who is on pole position on the number 91 machine. He is ahead of Austin Johnson, the number 27. The number 199 of Finley Polehill, he lines up in third place on the grid on the second row, just ahead of the number 15 Harrison Day. Brother to Austin, Byron Johnson lines up in fifth place on the number 37, just ahead of Lewis Hull on the number 5. Callum Maxwell, the number 111, he lines up in 7th, just ahead of the number 56 Sam Gardner in 8th, who rounds out your grid. Sam Gardner, a rider we've seen only twice so far at FAB-Racing. The final round last year at Red Lodge, he was in the AC40 rookies and back at Lyd, now moving up to the AC40 Pros.
Yeah, much like we've seen the likes of the Johnson brothers, Austin and Byron, and Austin I'm sure will be looking at making some moves. Harrison Day, equally another rider that we spoke to earlier this weekend, he had a brilliant Lyd, 3 or 4 podiums, 3 third places and a second place. He'll be looking at adding to that tally. Can anyone match the pace of Archie O'Brien lining up on pole position 91? He'll be looking at making it a 7th win on the bounce here at Red Lodge, as he has a look back, just has a quick glance, and will that be the last time he sees any of his rivals in this one as they get ready to look to the lights and kick off their first race of the weekend? It's the AC40 Pros, and it's a brilliant start for Archie O'Brien as he sends it down into turn 1. That's Byron Johnson that had a look down the inside of his brother. In fact, he's going to have another quick glance, but not quite able to get the move done. But it's a perfect start for your pole sitter as Archie O'Brien gets up into the lead of this one. Behind, it looks as though it was a good start for Finley Polehill in second.
Polehill looking really menacing on that all-orange number 199 up into second place. Looking through the corner, you can see him looking at his points, looking through his exit points. The grid slightly strung out here for the first lap. It looks as if Byron Johnson's made up a few places there. He seems to be a little bit higher up than fifth, as he's just slots in just behind Austin. But it is Archie O'Brien, who's already flying out the front.
Yeah, doing a mega job, and this is exactly what we were expecting to see from Archie O'Brien, and it's now just that consistency. This is where he just needs to get his head down and just start working on putting in some decent laps, and he'll break away from Finlay Polehill. Or will Finlay have enough just to start reeling him in? He's not fallen too far out of touch. It's 1.1 seconds across the line. Byron Johnson up to third place after starting in fifth, so it's a great start from Byron. Harrison Day now up in fourth place. Sam Gardner in fifth. It looks as though Austin Johnson is showing behind Finlay Polehill on the timing screens as well, but Sam Gardner, he's made up a place, so it's a good start from Sam. Started in 8th place, made up already 2 positions.
Yeah, good start from Sam Gardner. Really alert start to the race for him. We saw a big crash from him back at Lydd, but he's on it here at Red Lodge. And another man who's on it is the number 91, Archie O'Brien, out the front. 50.0 on that last lap, sets the fastest lap of the race so far. Of course, only one flying lap so far for these guys, but it's already a 3.5 second lead, and with no Archie Gibbs here to challenge Archie O'Brien, it seems like he's just walking away with it.
Yeah, but I mean, tempting fate, are you not? Because we've seen before so many of these riders having a position where they were in a commanding lead, and then something goes wrong at the bike. With the last we saw back at Lydd into 2020, I believe it was one of the Johnson brothers leading by a country mile, and unfortunately on the last lap the bike just came to a screeching halt, and that is what can happen in racing, unfortunately. So Archie O'Brien will be wanting to get to the end of this one. He's just coming up to start, 6 laps left to go, and he's currently going to be leading by a healthy margin. It was 3.5 seconds last time around. What is it this time? It's 4.4. He's managed to take a second, or just over a second, out of Finlay Polehill, and Finlay, who's just stretched that lead out between himself and Austin Johnson now to 1.4 seconds. Austin equally with his brother behind, 1.2 behind, and Byron Johnson with Harrison Day very much for company. 0.4 of a second split the pair of them as they came across the line, as Lewis Hull moves up past Sam Gardner for 6th position.
Archie O'Brien so dominant out the front of this one. The 10-year-old from Norfolk was third in the LC40 Elites last year, and now looking to pick up 2 championships if he can, in the AC40 Pros and over in the LC40 Elites as well. Really good maturity to see him be able to master 2 machines, swapping between them, and being able to put such dominant performances on both sides ahead of Finlay Polehill, who's now 5.5 seconds ahead of Finlay on the number 199. Finlay, a rider that we saw graduate up from the AC40 rookies. Archie O'Brien's had that extra seasons experience, so to be able to stick with a rider like Archie is a tall order, but you can't take anything away from the number 91. He is so fast at the front of this one.
Yeah, and it shows you just how invaluable it is to maybe do a second season in the likes of the Sydney Mini Motors. Archie O'Brien, of course, did the AC40 Pros last season, which was won by Ethan Sparks, and to be racing alongside someone like Ethan Sparks is only going to make you better, and Archie O'Brien clearly reaping those rewards as he's currently leading this one. 6 wins already. Will he make it a 7th today? Could he possibly even go for another hat-trick of wins? We're definitely not going to say that anything like that might happen, but I'm sure he'll be thinking that underneath that crash lid as he goes around the centre S's, and with 4 laps left to go. Behind, we've still got Finlay Polehill, and he's now got Austin Johnson much closer. Austin closing up to 0.6 of a second behind Finlay, so he's starting to put the pressure on for 2nd place.
Yeah, Byron and Austin Johnson, these two always seem to be linked together, but it is between Austin and Harrison Day that's slightly further back. Harrison Day's lashed himself onto the back of the number 37 of Byron Johnson. These two absolutely glued together around this circuit. Of course, Byron Johnson, 8 years old, first rookie to graduate from the AC40 Pros last year in 2020 on the Team Evolution Engineering bike. A few of these riders running the Tivo chassis, which is a chassis built by Andy Whedon, a rider who we see over in the Senior Mini Motos. And it seems to work, because a lot of these guys seem to make it work. The 2 Johnsons, 3rd and 4th in this one. Austin in a comfortable 3rd place. Byron just trying to fend off Harrison Day for 4th.
Yeah. and Austin Johnson and Byron Johnson involved in the closest race finish throughout the entirety of last season. 15 thousandths of a second split them at Clay Pigeon last season, so it shows you that it really can go down to the line. But with about 2.5 laps left to go, Archie O'Brien still comfortably leading. We've got the battle between Finlay Polehill and Austin Johnson really starting to heat up now. You can see Austin just traversing the circuit, looking for any chink in the armour of Finlay Polehill as he takes a wider line, a more shallow line. He's definitely just trying to get in that peripheral vision of the 199.
Yeah, it's between these two. This is the battle for second now as they complete 7 laps. Only 2 laps to go in this race. The first race for the AC40 Pros after a long 12-week gap. And it is this man out the front with a brand new set of leathers, looking very trick out the front of this one on the number 91 machine. And he's just so dominant out the front. We've said it time and time again. It is brilliant to see. He's got really, really nice, some really, really nice lines there, and a pretty nice helmet as well.
He has indeed, yeah. The Marvel-inspired Spider-Man lid as he makes his way around. Well, he's putting in a hero's attempt, and he's currently coming on to start his final lap of this one as he takes the last lap flag, the yellow and cross-checkered flag. And, on to the final lap goes Archie O'Brien. He's got a huge lead over Finlay Polehill, 199, who's back down 8.4 seconds with Austin Johnson swarming over the back end of him as Byron Johnson and Harrison Day come across the line, split by 1/10 of a second. So Harrison Day desperately trying to find a way past Byron Johnson. They would have all seen that last lap flag and will want to make these moves. This is when you need to make it count, but Archie O'Brien just making his way around the back end of the circuit for the last time, of the first time this weekend. Of course, 2 more races for the AC40 Pros will be coming up tomorrow, which you can tune in on FAB Racing and of course on motorsport.radio. You can listen live or you can watch live feed from Red Lodge. But up to the final corner comes Archie O'Brien. What a win. It is 7 from 7 to start the season from Archie O'Brien as he stands up on the pegs and comes across the line, takes the checkered flag. What can Finlay Polehill do? Can he hold on to second place ahead of Austin Johnson? He does. So Finlay Polehill punches the air. Austin Johnson has to settle for third. Byron Johnson and Harrison Day was split by a hair's breadth, and it is Harrison Day that snatches it on the line, managed to get that move done on the final lap. 1/10 of a second splits Harrison and Byron. What a race there from Archie O'Brien. Equally, Finlay Polehill, you could see delighted with that second place.
7 wins from 7 races for the number 1 Archie O'Brien, who takes another victory in the AC40 Pros ahead of Finlay Polehill. First podium for him in the AC40 Pros ahead of Austin Johnson in 3rd. Harrison Day picks up 4th ahead of Byron Johnson in 5th. The number 5 of Lewis Holt, he finished 5th ahead of Sam Gardner, who crosses the line in 7th, and Callum Maxwell in 8th. And rounding out your race for the race 1 for the AC40 Pros. Brilliant race from these guys. Shame that we didn't see Archie Gibbs in there. We've just sort of been lost of a title battle between those two. But Harrison Day racking up the points as well.
Yeah, Archie Gibbs, of course, he's got his eyes on that MKGP 50 bike that he's moved up to for this weekend. So we'll see him a little bit later on today. However, we are staying with mini moto action, and next out will be the seniors. They'll be making their way onto circuit, and equally, like we've seen with Archie O'Brien, the seniors has been, well, I wouldn't say dominated, but definitely Mr. Consistent is Mr. Bernie Hook, the reigning champion. He's already taken 4 wins out of 6 so far this season, finished 2nd in the other 2 races. He's always the one to beat, and you can tell he goes out there, he has a lot of fun, but as soon as the flag goes green and the lids come down, it's straight eyes on the prize.
Yeah, he's ruthless, and that's exactly how he's got 4 wins, 2 second places. His worst result is 2nd, 2 rounds into the championship, and he already has a 57-point lead. So it's going well for the number 0 of Bernie Hook. Of course, already won this championship last year as well, and so he's definitely the one to beat on the number 0. Josh Birkin's been looking really, really strong this weekend, though. He has pole position by quite some margin ahead of the number 96 Will Howarth. Bernie Hook down there in 3rd, but you're going to have to think he is a little bit of a Sunday man. He tends to always pull it out of the bag when it comes to the races, and we're going to probably see that from him now. But Josh Birkin definitely looking the one to beat.
Yeah, very much so. As Bernie always just likes to give everyone just a bit of a head start sometimes as Will Howarth makes his way out, and it's so good to see Will because he has so many issues with those bikes. We chatted to him briefly on Friday, and he's just busy just changing parts and changing things on the bike, as it looks as though we've got you can see some burnouts on the grid as they try and get some heat into those tyres, and we've got a slightly different grid from what we've got written down in front of us, so we're going to have to try and work that one out as we go around. It will be Will Howarth lining up on pole position currently, and you can see that is Bernie Hook in second. Then we've got the Birkin brothers, Matt and Josh, in third and fourth, and well, they're always a good fun pairing to watch. Neither one of them wants the other one to beat them, and they're quite happy just getting an elbow out, just getting a knee out, and stopping the other one coming past.
Yeah, we always see that with these guys. I mean, there's more rider than bike in this class, so we always see them barging each other out the way on the grass, on the tarmac, on the curbs, and it's always brilliant fun to watch all these guys out there for a bit of fun. But when the visor goes down, it does get serious as they start their warm-up lap for the race one here for the senior mini motos. It is Will Howarth on pole position, which was ahead of Josh Birkin, ahead of Bernie Hook. Josh Birkin is on the second row of the grid, and a whole swarm of senior mini moto riders following behind him.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got the likes of Josh Birkin
holding the flag for their first race, and they now look to the lights for race one here at Red Lodge. Who's it going to be that takes the whole shot? It's a solid start from Will Howarth. Bernie Hook gets a very good start, but they pretty much all stay where they were as they head into the first corner. Bit of a depleted grid as they look further back, but it is number 96 who still leads ahead of these guys. It's going to be a long race of position swapping, 9-lap race here for the senior mini motos, and it is Will Howarth and Bernie Hook who are tied together at the front.
Yeah, great start from Bernie Hook, but just couldn't quite find a way around the outside. You can see Will Howarth just having a look behind him, and this is where the senior mini motos we see different rider styles, and in fact both the Birkins have got complete rider style. One tucks the knees in, one splays the legs out. And what's the difference between the riders? Is this just pure preference, or is it a little bit of tactics of just making yourself as wide as possible?
Well, there's a big thing on the mini motos of tucking your knees in to try and be streamlined and get your weight across. And but I mean, the 2020 champion Bernie Hook doesn't have that style at all. He lets his knees splay out as a rider, has a bit of a moment in the background there. What we expect to see normally in the senior mini motos. It's an interesting one. I can't really say that one works better than the other, because I mean, if you look at the front here, you've got Will Howarth who has that style of tucking his knees in, and Bernie Hook who has his knees and his legs splayed fully out, and they're just as quick as each other. So you tell me, Gareth.
I'll have a go. We'll have to try both ways. Bernie, this is something we often see from Bernie Hook, is he tends to sit in that second position, and it's really sort of the final 2 laps of the race that he comes alive and just becomes a great white shark, just ready to devour anything in front of him. And Will Howarth is currently that I wouldn't say small fish, because Will Howarth is a former champion and multi-time winner here, so it's not going to be an easy feat. But you can see Bernie just to the front wheel, just bobbling a little bit as he runs onto the rumble strips on the exit, the final corner. But they are dragging both Matt and Josh Birkin along with them. Matt currently in third position, Josh in fourth. Andy Whedon has moved up to fifth position. Simon Hunterville in sixth. Ashley Thompson seventh. Mark Payne, then Chris Yeomans and Nick Bennett are your top 10. Last time around, Will Howarth set the fastest lap. It was a 49.0, just about a tenth of a second faster than Bernie Hook. So you can see that gap has just been bridged a little bit between Will Howarth and Bernie Hook. So Bernie perhaps just needs to reset a little bit. He's got plenty of racing left to go, 6.5 laps to go in this one. And well, Matt and Josh Birkin, however, that's the last 2 people you want chasing behind you. You've got a rider off to the side. Very easy to see as these bikes, of course, they've got possibly a little bit more on them that we usually see with the 6-year-olds.
Yeah, and not as much at stake when you're an adult just having a fun on a mini moto, as opposed to when you're an AC40 rookie trying to start a career. But it's the number 13 that's gone out. That's Neil Skinner. So not the way he would have wanted to start his weekend here at Red Lodge. Hopefully he can get that sorted for the next race. But is that a change for the lead? I think it is. That is Bernie Hook up into the lead. So something must have happened off camera there for him to be able to bridge that gap. Yeah,
he's taken a decent chunk out of Will Howarth and has managed to get the move done. So it was 0.2 of a second across the line. So Will Howarth now goes from being the hunted to the hunter as he now sits behind Bernie Hook. Can he get a tighter line through as they sweep down towards the final corner? In fact, he's got the outside line and gets the move back, so swapping positions twice on this lap for the lead. And in fact, the pair of them have dropped the Birkin brothers a little bit. Matt now dropping down. He was just over a second. It's now 2 seconds. So Will Howarth and Bernie starting to turn the heat up, and that's another rider down at the exit of turn 1. And well, unfortunately, it looks as though an issue for the 147. That's Rob Gentry that's gone down at T1 behind, upper front, sorry. It is still Bernie Hook chasing down Will Howarth, I imagine, with 5 laps left to go. This is not the race finish that you'll see. I'm sure we'll see plenty more changes for position. Bernie just laser focused on the back end of Will Howarth's bike.
Yeah, he's trying to prove a point. Much tighter line through the back section there from Bernie Hook, as looks like the 147 manages to get back going again. A little bit of breathing space now for Will Howarth. We can see how dangerous it is, and that's the Gentry going back as Reece Gentry. So not a good day for the Gentry boys as he gets back into this race. But now a little bit of breathing space for Will Howarth. Not what you want to see if you're Bernie Hook, because we know how strong Will Howarth is. As soon as he gets that clear air in front of him, as soon as he gets into that rhythm, and I think that's now Gentry out of this race, so unfortunate for him.
Yeah, as the 100 pulls to the side. Will Howarth, last time around, fastest lap of the race to 49 flat, and the gap now between himself and Bernie Hook sits at 0.7 of a second, but we've seen Bernie do it already, but you can see the gap seems to have grown as well over this lap, so is Will Howarth starting to put the pressure down, as you can see just having a chat on the side there are some of the riders that have decided to retire. I say decided to ride, I don't think anyone decides to retire
yeah,
from
I'm just going to sit out in this one.
as they sit there and just discuss what happened in that one, but it is still Will Howarth leading from Bernie Hook. Josh Birkin and Matt Birkin are glued together, as we usually see between them, and they're 5 seconds down off the back of Will Howarth. What will we see from the Birkin brothers? They're coming on to 3 laps left to go in this one. It is Will Howarth leading now by 1.8 seconds, surely, unless something goes wrong for the 96. This is Will Howarth to lose.
Yeah, 1.8 second lead now for Will Howarth. And that sort of riding takes big ambition, as Matt Birkin's fallen down the order now. He's down to 9th place on the number 5, so not where we expect to see him in a 1 minute 2 on that last lap, so some sort of issues there for Matt Birkin. Hopefully just a moment and nothing terminal, but it is Will Howarth out the front, 1.8 second lead ahead of the number 0 Bernie Hook. Josh Birkin, we haven't really seen anything from him in this race. A bit of a lonely 3rd place for him, somewhat 7 seconds back of Will Howarth, as Matt Birkin on the number 5 has dropped down to 9th place, as the last time he crossed the line anyway was in 9th place. Hopefully he hasn't dropped any further back than that, but it is Will Howarth now with a 3.1 second lead over Bernie Hook. Will Howarth doesn't turn up all the time, but when he does, he dominates.
Yeah, he does indeed, and took another second out of Bernie Hook on that last lap. And Will Howarth, who ended the last round at Lid with 2 wins, so this would be his 3rd win on the spin. So he's looking for a consecutive race hat-trick, which is always something that everyone enjoys. But, it's the first race of 3 here from Red Lodge. It is the Senior Mini Motos, and it is myself, Gareth Hall, and Tristan Finocchiaro bringing you all the commentary for the rest of the race ones throughout the rest of the day and all day tomorrow. We've got race 2s and race 3s, plenty of 2-wheel and even 3-wheel action to sink your teeth into on this beautiful weekend here from Red Lodge, just on the Suffolk border, and it is coming on the last lap. Will Howarth, as he makes his way around one of the lap bikes and just enjoying himself now. He's now got that gap out to 4.5 seconds. Clearly, as soon as he got past Bernie, he's like, okay, I can't do this anymore. I've checked out of this one. So Bernie's just going to drop back, and there's not much he can do about it. Will Howarth has really turned the pressure on and got up, and he's currently leading by a pretty healthy margin as he's carving his way through the traffic onto the back straight for the final time. He's going to come to the final corner, and it's going to be a first win on the weekend, 3 in a row for Will Howarth on the 96 on the Senior Mini Motos. Fantastic result there from him. Just couldn't quite be caught by Bernie Hook. Bernie comes home in 2nd place. Josh Birkin, as you say, pretty lonely, but he should be coming home and cruises across the line in 3rd place, with Ashley Thompson making some good moves from 6th on the grid up to 4th. Andy Whedon's come up from 7th to 5th. He'll be pretty happy with that. Simon Huntingford in 6th position. Then we've got Mark Payne, who will be going from 8th on the grid into 7th. Chris Yeomans makes his way up into 8th place, and then we've got Paul Nichols in 9th and Nick Bennett in 10th place.
A brilliant win there from Will Howarth. Bernie Hook, though, doing what he does best, using his head, picking up the points. Still another 2nd place for Bernie Hook. Hasn't finished lower than 2nd, with 4 wins back at Lid, and is doing exactly what he needs to do to be racking up the points in the championship. Heading into this race, Will Howarth was somewhat 66 points behind Bernie Hook, so extending that championship out the front like he needs to be doing is Bernie Hook. But a brilliant result from Will Houth as well. A very entertaining race. A few retirements, a couple of crashes, some bar bashing as we're going on. In terms of senior mini motos, fairly uneventful, but that's just because they set the standards so high.
Yeah, very tame indeed, but nevertheless a great race for Will Houth. And Bernie Hook, as you say, yet to finish outside of the top 2 all season long. So incredible consistency. It's exactly what we saw from him last season. He doesn't have to win the race. He doesn't really think he needs to win every race. He just knows if he picks up the points mean prizes, and you end up with a champion, which is exactly what he did in 2020 and what we'll be looking to do here in 2021. Now, the LC40 Elites, they will be up next, the final of our first set of races on the mini motos, and it is, of course, the final step before they start to make their way up onto the GP bikes, the GP50s and the GP70s. It is Archie O'Brien once again, who took 5 wins from 6 in the LC40 Elites back at the first 2 rounds at Lid. Looking once again to pick up a handful of wins this weekend.
Yeah, Archie O'Brien on the LC40 Elite. We saw him over in the AC40 Pros, moving up onto the liquid cooled machine, exactly the same bikes that we've just seen in the senior mini motos. Slightly different, but for these guys, but a little bit more power than they used to with the air cooled machines. So that's something they're going to have to be coping with, dealing with. But Archie O'Brien's doing a brilliant job of coping with the liquid cooled power compared to the air cooled, and going out there, we're going to see what he can do. Of course, like you say, the last step before they move up onto the metro kits, onto the gear bike machines, and then up to great things on the big tracks as well. So it's the premier class essentially for the junior mini motos, and one rider we've seen already make that step up to the GP50 machines is Archie Gibbs. He's going to line up on second position on the number 3.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to seeing what Archie can do on that GP50. They'll be coming up a little bit later, 2 races time after the pit by 140s, the mini GP50s, and Archie Gibbs will be making his debut in the race on that new bike for him. But he will be, as you say, lining up in second position for this one, behind the man to beat, Archie O'Brien. The number 7 behind as well is Luke Fitchett, I believe, and Luke, who had a pretty decent weekend's racing when we were back down at Lid. He'll be looking at picking up a couple more podiums this time around, and Luke Fitchett, who picked up 5 podiums out of 6, 2 second places and 3 third places. So don't count out the number 7 for a decent run in this one. I'm sure the 2 Archies behind can look behind him and think, I've still got a little bit of pressure behind me, and they're not just going to run away with this one.
No, not at all. Luke Fitchett's looking very determined, especially this weekend. We saw him at the side of the track visualising the circuit, talking with his family, with his tutors, with his mentors, and just figuring out the best way around the circuit and how he's going to get the better of the 2 Archies that are ahead of him on the grid. Luke Fitchett, 3rd spot on the grid on the number 7 machine. Another one of the riders that's having a go up on the GP50 in the Metro Kit classes as well. So a perfect example of how all these riders graduate from the mini motos up into the gearbox machines. Archie O'Brien, though, he's focusing solely on the mini motos this year, only running in the AC40 Pros and the LC40 Elites, and it's working for him.
Yeah, it is indeed, and he lines up on pole position for this one. So what can he do with that time of 49.238, was 0.3 of a second faster than Archie Gibbs in second position. Row 2 is Luke Fitchett on the 7 with Finley Polehill. Good qualifying result there for the 119. Finley Polehill in 4th place, who's just celebrated his first podium of the season in the pros. Can he do the same in the LC40 Elites? Austin Johnson in 5th position with Harrison Day in 6th, with Byron Johnson in 7th. Bailey Lawrence, of course, younger sister of Taylor Lawrence, is in 8th position, and Sam Gardner rounds out the grid in 9th place. And it's great to see. We often see this, a lot of these AC40 pros making their way up and running the LC40 Elites. If anything, it gives you more track time, more race time, and they really enjoy it.
Yeah, some of these guys, they even use the same bike that they use in the air-cooled class in the AC40 Pros. The air-cooled bike can be run in this liquid-cooled class, but they can also take the restrictor plates off as well. So that 14mm restrictor plate that they run in the Pros can be taken off for this if they choose to run in it. But obviously, if you want to do well in this class, you're going to want the power of the liquid-cooled engine, and it proves to be the one to beat, as Archie O'Brien on the pole position is running that liquid cooled engine, as well as many of the riders on this grid. A 9-rider grid for the LC40 Elite as they look to the lights for the first time here at Red Lodge. It's a solid start for Archie O'Brien and Archie Gibbs. Luke Fitchett looking menacing, tries to go up the inside of Archie Gibbs. Has he made his way through? He hasn't. It is the two Archies out the front ahead of Fitchett. There is Johnson just reading in just behind, and Finley Polehill. So Archie O'Brien still leading this one. Archie Gibbs just seeming like he's just falling off the back of him here. Still very early days, of course. 9-lap race here for the LC40 Elites. These riders age 7 to 13 years old on 40cc two-stroke liquid-cooled engines, heading around the back end of the circuit now. And it's the two Johnsons that are just split by Finley Polehill at the moment.
Yeah, Finley not with the greatest starts. He's found himself behind behind one of the Johnson brothers as they come around to finish their first lap. It is Archie O'Brien from Archie Gibbs. Luke Fitchett, great start. He's right on the back end of the two Archies in third position. Then we've got Byron Johnson, who managed to get to the front of Austin. In fact, Finley now dropping behind Austin Johnson. So Byron and Austin jumping up ahead of Finley, who drops from a fourth place start down to sixth. Harrison Day is in seventh, with Sam Gardner and Bailey Lawrence rounding out the field. So great start from Archie O'Brien. And Archie Gibbs doing a great job so far, right on the back end of Archie O'Brien. So not what we saw during Lid, where Archie was just able to eke out some time over Archie Gibbs. He's definitely putting the pressure on. Look, you can see just moving around, using some different lines, trying to find the grip elsewhere on the circuit, and doing a good job of it, just keeping Archie O'Brien honest. Now, can he do this for the rest of this race? Because we know just how consistent Archie O'Brien is.
O'Brien is pushing hard, and he had a little bit of a moment on the far end of the circuit there as Finley Polehill just makes a move up the inside of Byron Johnson. So these two swapping positions. If they're not careful, they're going to lose touch of Austin just ahead. But Archie O'Brien has set the fastest lap of the race that last time round, 0.6 of a second. He has now over Archie Gibbs. But where did that come from? Because Archie Gibbs was right on the rear wheel of Archie O'Brien a second ago, but now it is 0.6 of a lead that O'Brien has over Gibbs. This is the battle that we were hoping to see in the AC40 Pros. Unfortunate that Archie Gibbs pulled out of that one to move up into the GP50 category, but it is something he's going to want to be doing. So it's brilliant to see him moving up, but it is now all about the battle between the Archies. O'Brien and Gibbs out the front as the riders battle out slightly further back. This is the battle for fourth place between Austin Johnson, Finley Polehill and Byron Johnson. The two Johnsons split by the bright orange 199 of Finley Polehill as we have a battle for the lead here as O'Brien goes a little bit wide into turn 2, just allows Archie Gibbs to get back onto his rear wheel. It was still 0.6 over the line, but it looks like nothing on circuit.
Oh, you can see they're taking a wider line through the exit of the hairpin. Is Archie O'Brien much tighter? Is Archie Gibbs? He's definitely trying to find every inch of circuit that he can just get in the eye line, just unnerve Archie O'Brien on the 91, and Archie Gibbs really starting to put the hammer down and put the pressure on. You can see just a slight wobble through the exit of that corner for Archie O'Brien, so he is really on the edge of adhesion, and Archie Gibbs chasing him every single lap. You can see starting to really putting the pressure on Archie O'Brien. This isn't something that we've seen too much from Archie O'Brien. He seems to have had it relatively easy so far this season. He's taken 5 wins from 6. Archie Gibbs will desperately be wanting to get one over Archie O'Brien and just making sure that he can't continue this form, and at the moment he's doing a great job of just keeping him honest, just making sure that he stays there and really just trying to pressure him into making a mistake.
Making sure there's no way through for the number 3 is Archie O'Brien on the number 91. He's making sure that Team Evolution engineering bike can't find its way through on the number 91. Manages to just keep a little bit of breathing space ahead of the number 3, but it's still there's 5 laps to go in this one, and anything can happen with Gibbs breathing down the neck of Archie O'Brien. This is the closest race we've seen between these two so far. It did get close back at lead on a couple of races, but it was Archie O'Brien who managed to extend his lead out and completely dominate. But Gibbs looking very, very strong. Real nice late braking point down into turn 2, manages to get right onto the rear wheel of O'Brien. Really strong through that first sector is Archie Gibbs, but both these guys pushing so hard, exchanging fastest laps of the race. Both of them, their best lap, a 49 flat, and both of them matching to themselves for pace on that last lap as well with a 49.2. So these guys really pushing at the front of this LC40 Elite race. Of course, this is the premier class for the junior mini motos before they make their step up onto gearbox bike. bikes, and then up onto bigger gearbox bikes over in the British Talent Cup, Junior Supersport, European Talent Cup, whatever it is that they choose is the next step for them.
And you can see the last time around, as they cross the line, it's a little bit different. A tenth is taken out by Archie O'Brien. Last time around, the gap as they came across the line, their lap times were 6 thousandths of a second, and their best lap times were 15 thousandths of a second. So it shows you that both the Archies are absolutely matched for pace. As sweeping around goes Sam Gardner and Bailey Lawrence as they're fighting over 8th and 9th position, as Bailey tries to send it down the inside of Sam up at the top end of the circuit as they go on to the sweeping back, the back straight you almost call it, but it's definitely almost a continuous bend down to the final corner, and Bailey just tried to make that move, just cost herself about half a second or so, just sat herself up in the middle of the corner, and she's got to reset, I'm sure, go chasing Sam as back up at the front. It is still Archie O'Brien. In fact, the gap looks as though it's extended as a little bit as they come on to start the penultimate lap, and in fact the fastest lap last time around, a 49 flat, 49.043 is 0.2 of a second faster, and the gap is now 7.5 tenths of 7 tenths of a second between Archie O'Brien and Archie Gibbs. Luke Fitchett is in a comfortable but a bit of a lonely third place finish, which is something that I'm sure he won't mind too much. Luke Fitchett, of course, has been on the podium for the last 5 races in a row. He's about to make it 6, and no one doesn't mind standing on a podium. But Finley Bolehill, he's now made his way up past Austin Johnson, up into 4th place. So Finley back up into where he started. Of course, he was jumped off the line by both the Johnson brothers, and Austin is now 0.4 of a second behind Finley Bolehill. Byron falling off the back of them, 4.2 seconds. So not a great race for Byron Johnson.
No, not what we expect to see from Byron Johnson. Of course, learning the ropes on the liquid cooled machine are both the Johnsons as they learn their way around the Team Evolution Engineering LC40 Elite machine. But one rider that's very accustomed to that liquid cooled engine is Archie O'Brien out the front, still leading ahead of Archie Gibbs. Archie Gibbs takes the fastest lap of the race last time round, so these guys just swapping fastest laps of the race as the race goes on. But it is the final lap, and they're coming up to some back markers here. That is Sam Gardner and Bailey Lawrence. They're battling it out for 8th place as Archie O'Brien sends it up the inside of Bailey Lawrence, manages to sweep his way through, and I think that's it. That is going to be the win for Archie O'Brien as he makes his way through the final corner for the final time, and that is 2 wins in 2 separate classes for Archie O'Brien, AC40 Pros and LC40 Elites. You can see how much he wanted that one with a fist bump over the line. Archie Gibbs, another solid second place from him. Still can't quite get get ahead of Archie O'Brien, but it is Luke Fitchett with another solid third place. Finley Bolehill comes across the line in 4th, and Austin Johnson it is that rounds out your top 5. Archie O'Brien timed it to perfection with that move up the inside of Bailey Lawrence. Yeah,
and you can see Archie Gibbs coming across the line, slamming his hands on the handlebars. He knows that traffic just cost him the chance of going down the inside into the final corner. Behind, Finley Bolehill getting a massive thumbs up from Dad as he crossed the line, and across the line comes I believe that is always Harrison Day that comes across in 7th place. So an issue for Harrison, not having the race that he was perhaps hoping for. But what a result for Archie O'Brien. He had to work for that one. And Archie Gibbs definitely put the pressure on, but it is a 1.1 second advantage across the line. Archie O'Brien takes 6 wins out of 7 to start the season here in the LC40 Elites, and he will be back tomorrow to do it all again. Plenty more races for him. He's got 4 more races this weekend, 2 in the pros and 2 in the LCs, and you can catch that all here as we've got right down.
Harrison Day.
Yeah, Harrison's bike just down to the side as on the in-lap as they walk it back into the pit lane here at Red Lodge. It is round 3 of the championship. Of course, round 3 was meant to be at Llandow in South Wales a few weeks ago. Unfortunately unable to do it, so we've had to wait a little bit longer, and we are here at Red Lodge about to kick it off again. 90 days since the last time we were racing at Fab down when we did that action-packed weekend at Lyd. And if you haven't watched any of it, of course you can go to FAB-Racing's YouTube channel and watch all of the edited highlights down from all of the races, all the categories, and it is well worth it. We had some absolutely supreme racing, and talk about good racing. The pit bikes are about to make their way out on the circuit. It's going to get loud, it's going to get noisy, the feet and your entire body, your bones will shake out of your body, and that is how aggressive these bikes are. And there's going to be over 30 of them. Yeah. and we've got at least 30 of them will be making their way out on circuit. As we've got a lot of people enjoying themselves here in the sun, and what a better way to do is sit here in the sun enjoying some good racing.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly what we're doing. Not quite in the sun. We're sort of cooped up in a little box, but we do get to watch some brilliant racing and call the shots here for the Pit Bike 140 race. This is a race that is going to take some energy, because these guys always going at it. There's always a battle for the win. If not, it's a battle for second. And these guys always just really close racing between all of them. Taylor Lawrence that leads the championship, and it will be Taylor Lawrence that is starting from pole position as well. So it's all down to the number 10 to see what he can do. The lap record set here is a 46.7, and that was set by Max Cook, so a rider who's come up through the FAB-Racing ranks, moved up into the Junior World Championship, didn't win the British Talent Cup, but competed in the British Talent Cup, went to the British Talent team, has won a couple of championships on the way, Standard Moto 3 that he won, and as well as the Aprilia Super Teens, and James Cook as well, his brother, is also doing the business over in the British Talent Cup. Another rider that's come through FAB, so the more and more the day goes on, the more and more names you realise have come up through the ranks and have made it out of FAB Racing and up and to do great things.
Yeah, absolutely so, and this is the perfect place to come and race if you want to make your way and make your name in British motorcycle racing, from 2 wheels to 4. FAB Racing, the home and the official partner of the BSB, and we are on the part of the Road to MotoGP programme, and we need a new British MotoGP star. Will it be any of these guys lining up and will it be any of these guys sitting in the paddock that in 10 to 15 years time will be that next Marc Marquez, will be that next Valentino Rossi? We've got plenty of talent here, and if we've got any, if you've got any BSB talent and you're sitting at home thinking I've got a free weekend, well, why don't you come and test yourself up against FAB's best? And the best in the Pit Bike 140s so far this season has been Taylor Lawrence, Tristan.
Yeah, he's been absolutely flying. Pit bike specialist, I guess we can call the number 10 of Taylor Lawrence. Really flying on that machine with a 47.0 that put him on pole position. The fastest lap of the weekend as well that he set. You can just see how big the grid here is here. Is Giorgio Scalata. They are still coming. They just keep coming and coming out of the holding area there as Marco Pandolfo lines himself up onto the grid. Giorgio Scalata also making his way onto the grid there, but it goes so far back that the riders right at the back there are on a little bit of a slant on the corner.
Yeah, they've got to go around a full corner before they get to the start finish line, but starting them off for their green flag lap, and it will be, and we have to we'll start off the grid now because it takes us almost a full lap to do it, but it will be Taylor Lawrence lining up on pole position, just a shadow over 1/10 of a second faster than Rossi Banham in second, with Reece Peacock lining up in third place as Reece looks to pick up some decent points here, yet to get into the top 5. His best result, 8th place so far. Chris Wells, he had a win back at round 1 at Lid. He lines up in 4th with Jamie King, of course, last season's Pit Bike 140 champion, in 5th. Ben Jolliffe in 6th position, and Ben making his debut in the pit bikes this weekend. Nathan Riggy 7th with Jack Andrews in 8th, and then rounding out the first 10 will be Marco Pandolfo and Darren Anderson in 9th and 10th. Callum Wybrow in 11th with Adam Sweeney in 12th. Then we've got Matt Lindley in 13th with Arden Katz in 14th. Paul Coombs and Toby Parry in 15th and 16th with Giorgio Scalata in 7th and Adam Redding in 18th. Sam Shaw and Ian Jackson are your top 20, with Nick Shaw and Brandon Payne 21st and 22nd. Jake Sayer and Andrew Graham are 23rd and 24th. Kevin Gritton and Matt Edwards rounding out row 13 in 25th and 26th. Then Lewis Dutton and Sean Whitaker on row 14, with row 15 being Max Perry and Roger Monks. Mark Mobbs in 31st position with Neil Skewer in 32nd, Dave Glover in 33rd, and Aston Gilson is your 34th and final rider on this grid, and we'll probably be starting on the grid about turn 3, seeing how many we've got on this grid for this one. Looking forward to this. It's always great to see the pit bikes out there. There are so many of them. The pit bike category is always busy. It is always great racing. It is always chaos.
the biggest grid that we have in Fab Racing is always the pit bike 140s. It looks like chaos, and they're not even moving yet. So yeah, 35 riders on this grid. Who is it that's going to take the number one spot? Taylor Lawrence looks in the best shape to be able to do it, but what can Rossi Banham do about that? Rossi Banham, of course, British Talent Cup rider, nicknamed Noodles by his family for whatever reason. We're going to have to find that out.
No,
we have a theory that
I'm
it might be because of his hair.
Yeah, well,
but they are underway, and it's a good start from the number 10 of Taylor Lawrence as they go away for their green flag lap for the first.
Yeah, got me excited, didn't you?
Well, it took you so long to get through there. I thought the race had started.
well, I told you it was going to take a while, but they waited on the grid patiently for me to do grid before they set off. But it will be Taylor Lawrence and Rossi Banham. We've got the 17 off to the side, just trying to get the bike restarted, and I'm just quickly going through it. It's Adam Sweeney, the 17, and unfortunately he's only just got to the end of the pit lane, which won't win you any points in this one. But Taylor Lawrence, Rossi Banham, what can they do from first and second? Taylor Lawrence, who's taken 4 wins on the season so far, yet to finish outside of the top 3. Rossi Banham, he had a really good round 2. He, I believe, almost came second in class, a win, a second and a third, so managed to pick up a medal of all different colours. It looks as though Adam Sweeney having a little bit more of an issue with that bike, just shaking the bike, just hoping that, willing it into work, but unfortunately it looks as though he might not be able to make this. Yeah, he tried turning off and on again, but into their grid slots come the pit bike 140s. Well, if you're going to enjoy, we are going to enjoy them. We always enjoy the pit bikes, but let us know. Have a guess. Who do you think is going to win this one? Let us know in the comments. Let us know if you're watching from home, where you're watching from home, and equally who you're supporting, who you're watching. And we're about to get ready for some pit bike 140 action here from Red Lodge, the third round of the FAB Racing Mini Bike British Championship. It's Taylor Lawrence, it's Rossi Banham. Who gets the whole shot? It looks as though it's a great start from Rossi Banham. Can he sweep around the outside? He does get the move on Taylor Lawrence. Great start there from Banham. Moves up into the lead of this one. Taylor Lawrence didn't quite get the bike underneath him as they came from the green lights, but it looks as though good start for Rossi Banham. Taylor Lawrence second, Chris Wells and Reece Peacock was side by side, and then we've got bikes everywhere.
Well, there's definitely no restrictions on track limits there, because they were all on the inside, and that's Reece Peacock. I think that's the number 29 of Reece Peacock that's had some sort of issue, possibly a little bit of an off that he's managed to get back on, or possibly some sort of issue there, so not what the number 29 would have wanted, but he's restarted, he's back into this race, and he's got some work to do. It is Taylor Lawrence out the front, but it is Rossi Banham that's managed to get the better of him on the number 196, of course, British Talent Cup rider over in the British Superbike paddock. It looks like it's going to be between these two. Jamie King a little bit further back. He's dropped off these guys quite a bit, of course, your 2020 Pit Bike 140 champion, as they're 3 abreast into turn 1. That was the number 62 of Chris Wells, alongside a few riders there. That was all of them going into turn 1.
Yeah. 4 riders into one corner doesn't usually go unless you're on anything but a Pit Bike 140, but yeah, you can see Rossi Banham, Taylor Lawrence already checking out the front. 3 seconds over the first lap is absolutely insane. How have they pulled up such a gap? But behind it is Jamie King that's made a good start from 5th. He's made his way up to 3rd place. Now Chris Wells, as you say, was making some moves. Can Chris get back up into a podium position? Started 4th, of course, behind Reece Peacock, but Reece having an issue with that bike. He's going to have dropped way down the order. Nathan Riggy has made a good move from 7th up into 5th place. Then you've got Chris Wells, who's just trying to make his way back up through the front. In fact, Chris has got back up into 4th place. Jack Andrews now falling down the order. He's now down in 7th. Darren Anderson in 8th. Ben Jolliffe is on the 125. He's in 9th place, with Callum Wybrow in 10th place, and Callum moving up from one position over the first 2 laps. However, at the front, it's now 3.9 seconds between Rossi Banham and Taylor Lawrence, and it's 0.3 of a second gap between the pair of them.
Yeah, it's brilliant stuff from these guys. They just have a little bit of edge over the field. 47 ones from the both of them. Jamie King and the high 47s just can't quite stay on the back of those two. 3.9 seconds, like you say, it is between the top 2, and a lonely 3rd place of Jamie King. Is he going to be joined by Chris Wells, though? Because the number 62, he is on it. He was making moves, and he looks like he is on a mission. Fastest lap for Taylor Lawrence, as you see a change for the lead at the front. Taylor Lawrence up the inside of Rossi Banham. A nice move. Really good to be able to make that stick late on the brakes. A little bit of front end movement, but not a problem for the number 10. He looks so confident on that number 10 Pit Bike 140 machine. but just look at how much track the number 196 of Rossi Banham is using, and that works out for him. He got a brilliant drive and it enabled it to shoot it up the inside of the number 10, Taylor Lawrence. It's going to be between these two. I wouldn't put money on either of them.
No, you cannot tell where this is going to go, especially the pit bike 140s. It can come from anywhere. The bikes, we've seen so many incidents, thrills, spills, it all happens, and Taylor Lawrence leaning right down as he comes through the final corner, and this is where it starts to get interesting, isn't it, Tristan? Because this is where we can see the lap traffic is only 3 corners ahead of these guys. They will catch them by the end of the race, and it's where really the tactics come into play for these guys in the league. Can they put a couple of bikes in between themselves and the rider behind, especially at slower corners where it's going to hurt the guy behind you? And well, Rossi, you can have just a quick glance down at the bike there, but Taylor Lawrence is, well, almost shadowing him around every single corner. And Jamie King has now made his way past Chris Wells up into 3rd position. They're 4 seconds off the back of this lead pair. And well, it's going to get busy, because this is where you'll find the leaders start to catch the tail end of the field. Of course, they started so far back that by the time that Rossi and Taylor have got to turn 2, some of those guys that started at the back end of the field had just got to the line and got a rider off to the
Georgia
side.
Scalata. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that was down in 17th. I think it is. If I recognise the leathers there, a bit of something on a bit of debris left on the side of the circuit, and the visor off of the helmet there, so possibly a crash there for that rider in the background. But it's number 196 Rossi Banham carving his way through back markers, and just like you said, Gareth, it's going to be all about who can get through quickest, and Rossi did a really good job through there, made his way through, put a little bit of a gap between him and Taylor Lawrence, but Taylor already seeming to bring that back in as he puts another bike between him and the number 10. Rossi just seems to have that slight edge when it comes to carving through the traffic compared to Taylor Lawrence. He's had the benefit of the doubt. He's had a little bit of luck compared to Taylor, of course, with these two riders, and it's always easier leading.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was Dave Glover. They just managed to get past. So Taylor Lawrence just losing out a little bit there. He's just under a second behind Rossi. So Rossi with a good lap time. In fact, Taylor losing 7/10 of a second last time around. And well, really starting to put the pressure now. You can see Taylor desperately trying to close in as he tucks in on the bike as they go down towards the back end of the circuit. And Taylor Lawrence, he's got the pace. Of course, he's taken 4 wins on the season so far. Rossi Banham picked up the last win of the weekend at round 2 at Lydd. What can he do this time out at Red Lodge? We know that he's done quite well here in the past. He picked up some good results when we were here the 7th round of the season in 2020 when he was racing the likes of Charlie Nesbitt, Eddie O'Shea, Evan Belford, when they were all part of the Pit Bike 140 Championship. Of course, Jamie King, who is in 3rd place, and Jamie making some moves forward as well. He's not yet finished inside the top 6. That's stunning for his man has been so consistent. Yeah, as we've got Jamie King finished 7th position twice in round 1, 8th place. He's had no luck on that new bike, but this time around it looks as though he's got it working. It's 3rd place currently.
He's been struggling on that new bike, on that Simoto bike that he's riding. He says it was new for him, so it took him some time to get to grips with it, but he's really got to grips with it now. He set his personal best lap ever around Red Lodge earlier in the weekend in practice, and now up into P3 where we're used to seeing him. Of course, champion last year, so we expect to see him up the front end. But Rossi Banham now has a 1.6 second lead ahead of the number 10 of Taylor Lawrence. So Rossi Banham has put the hammer down and he's just able to carve through the back markers that little bit smoother compared to the number 10, and I think that's what's winning him this race. These guys, of course, good friends off circuit, but when it comes to on circuit, it's all about who's going to take that victory. 1.5 seconds it is that Rossi has over Taylor Lawrence. You're going to think that's going to be curtains for the number 10, but anything can happen. 4 laps to go, and they're going to come up to even more back markers as this race goes on.
They are, and behind it's pretty much spread out, because Jamie King, he's got a 3-second gap between himself and Chris Wells. Chris Wells 3 seconds between himself and Nathan Riggy. They're going to start catching back markers, and that's where unfortunately the gaps will be built up. So it is the battle for the lead, but it's Taylor Lawrence now 2 seconds. He's lost. He's not had a great last few laps, and I say not had a last. Maybe Rossi's absolutely switched it into another gear for this one, but you can see taking a tight line there, Rossi Banham desperately trying to put as many bikes in between himself and Taylor Lawrence, and doing a great job of it. And this is something we saw from Charlie Nesbitt last season. He knew exactly where to put the bike, just to give the rider ahead knowledge of where they are, so there was no contact, but all it does is put more positions, more place and more time between yourself and your rivals.
Well, he saw exactly what he needed to do watching Charlie Nesbitt, and of course those guys being close friends as well. He's learned exactly what he has to do to win a Pit Bike 140 race and carve through the field. Of course, Rossi's best result so far has been a win last time out at Lid. He picked up a win in the final race of the weekend at Lid. That'll be there for round 2. He's had a few podiums as well as a second place. So Rossi looking very, very strong in this championship. And coincidentally, 4 years ago today, actually, was when he started his racing career at Red Lodge. His first ever weekend with FAB-Racing back in the AC40 Pros class. That was his first ever weekend 4 years ago today. But and it's just showing how much he's come on, because he's now at the front of this one and leading it by a good margin for Pit Bike 140 terms.
Well, that's how you want to celebrate an anniversary, and there they go, carving his way through the back end of the field. He's now made his way past, I believe that's the 23 that he's just got past. That's Brandon Payne that is battling out down the order. And well, Taylor, you can see just having a look to some of the other riders on the side. He's like, let me through, please let me through. And he does get up past, but the gap now 3 seconds. So surely Rossi has got this one in the bag as he's on the final lap of the race. He's just got to keep it on 2 wheels as he's going up towards the back end of the circuit. And Rossi Banham, who won the final race of the weekend at round 2 in Lid, he wants to open his account here at Red Lodge for round 3 with a victory. And well, he's got 3 more corners to do so as he comes in towards the S's, sweeps around the right hand, and then he's going to be almost on a turn, has a quick glance behind him, already punching the air. And of course, as you say, 4 years since he made his debut at Red Lodge, and he's going to come across the line, leg up in the air, and it was a cruise to line for Rossi Banham. He takes the victory in the opening race of the weekend, and it's going to be by a hefty margin, 4.4 seconds at the end of the one. Taylor Lawrence just couldn't quite keep with him. That traffic really working in Rossi Banham's favour. However, Rossi, nothing taken away from him. That was a fantastic ride.
Yeah, the way he carved through the field, the way he made moves on lap traffic, the way he put the laps in when he needed to. He had the fastest lap of the race as well, so with a 46.7, and that was so close to the lap record by Max Cook. Not quite pinching it, just slightly off it, but pretty much matching it. So a brilliant race for Rossi Banham to take the win 4 years after starting his racing career here at Red Lodge with FAB-Racing. He wins ahead of Taylor Lawrence, the number 10, in second place. Jamie King picks up third place on the number 76 ahead of Chris Wells in fourth on number 62. Nathan Riggy on the number 59 machine, he finishes fifth place ahead of Reese Peacock in sixth. Ben Jolliffe on the number 125, also riding over in the GP70s. He finishes in 7th, ahead of Marco Pandolfo. Good finish from the Italian, ahead of Jack Andrews and Callum Wybrow, who round out your top 10. Anderson, it was, that finished 11th, ahead of Coombs in 12th. And that rounds out the top 12 for your race here for the Pit Bike 140. It's the first race of the weekend for these guys, and what a race it was.
Do you want to take a breath?
Yes.
I'll go grab an oxygen canister for you. What a race. The Pit Bike 140s, always fantastic racing. And well, next up we've got the MK GP50s. They'll be out on circuit. The first time we get to see the Metrokit GP50 bikes having their race for this third round of the season at Red Lodge. And well, we've got Archie Gibbs, who will be making his debut. Can anyone get past Clayton Edmonds? Well, Clayton Edmonds, as we say, can anyone beat him? Marco Holt, however, lining up on pole position for this one. In second position. But Marco looking very racy in qualifying. Not quite able to beat the time that Clayton Edmonds set in Q1. However, well, surely this is going to be a good fight.
Yeah, absolutely. So we saw Marco Holt look very strong in qualifying, and so does Clayton. Clayton's looked really strong all weekend, all year so far as well, racking up every single win so far in the MK GP50s. This is where these young riders start off their careers on gear bike machines. They've mastered the basics on the mini motos, and they're starting to learn life on a slightly bigger bike with a little bit more power and gear and gears, clutch, a foot brake rather than on the left hand. So much to learn for these guys. A lot of these guys, It's their first year on a GP50. Clayton Edmonds being one of the exceptions, and that extra bit of experience really shows. Yeah, and of course he did really, really well here last time we were at Red Lodge. Celebrated in the rain after we're picking up a victory here, and he's I believe we were talking to his family afterwards, and they were saying that he's basically got webbed feet. He's that good in the rain. Well, unfortunately, this time around, it's complete opposite. It's a beautiful day here in Suffolk, and we're enjoying a fantastic day's racing. Plenty more to come throughout the rest of the weekend. This is the race 1s. We've got race 2s and race 3s all throughout Sunday, so make sure you tune in on motorsport.radio and on Fab Racing's Facebook page. However, it will be for the MKGP 50s for their first race of the weekend. Clayton Edmonds with a 47.525 lining up in pole position, 0.4 of a second in qualifying, faster than Marco Holt on the 58. Harry Payne, fantastic qualifying for Harry. He'll line up in 3rd place with Archie Gibbs. I'm sure will be delighted. 4th place in his debut on the MKGP 50 bike. Bill Harris, of course, younger brother of Ronnie Harris, who you'll see in the 70s later on. He lines up in 5th place with Isaiah Devine in 6th position, Noah Guillory in 7th, and Luke Fitchett in 8th position. Rounding out the 4th row, and a slightly smaller GP50 grid this week. However, none less frenetic, I'm sure, because Marco Holt, he'll have the bit between his teeth, because he will see from qualifying that he can catch Clayton Edmonds. Yeah, that was exactly what we took away from qualifying 1 and qualifying 2, was that Marco Holt is really looking strong and looking like he has a chance. I mean, he looks very strong back at Lyd, but there's been 12 weeks between then. So can anyone beat the Clayton Edmonds, the number 146? He's been so strong this season, but who can dethrone him as they look to the lights for the first time this weekend here at Red Lodge? It's been 12 weeks. It's a good start from Marco Holt. Tries to go around the outside, not enough room around turn 1, but he slots into 2nd place, exactly where he started off the grid. Archie Gibbs, number 3, his first weekend on the GP50 machine, and he's up into 3rd place from 3rd on the grid. Harry Payne a little bit further back, trying to carve his way through. We're not used to seeing him quite so far back there, but Clayton Edmonds leading ahead of Marco Holt. It's a breakaway 2 so far. Archie Gibbs just learning his way on the number 3. Yeah, Harry Payne, not a great start from 3rd place, dropped down to 5th, and that's promoted Archie Gibbs now up into 3rd place, and Harry Payne just getting caught in the battle down between Bill Harris equally, and I believe that was Luke Fitchett that had a good start as well. So not a great start for Harry. However, I'm sure he'll be trying to fight back. He's desperately trying to pick up that podium that has just eluded him so far. He's on a string of 4 consecutive 4th place finishes, but across the line for the first time is Clayton Edmonds leading away from Marco Holt. Archie Gibbs, Harry Payne now is back up into 4th position. Isaiah Devine in 5th position ahead of Bill Harris. So it's a good start for Isaiah. He's moved up a position into 5th, and we'll be looking at beating his best ever record. Yeah, of course, Isaiah Devine from Bermuda, representing Bermuda on that number 19 machine. 11 years old, the 2017 junior mini bike champion in Bermuda, and he's showing and having a go at here at FAB Racing. We've seen him progressing so much up into 5th place in this race, and compared to when we saw where he first came at FAB Racing, when he first joined FAB Racing, we've seen him progress so much, and it's been absolutely brilliant to see. But these guys out the front, these guys are on another planet. Marco Holt sets the fastest lap of the race on that last lap. With 10 laps to go, we have a race on our hands between Clayton Edmonds and Marco Holt. Which one is it going to be? Is Marco Holt finally going to be able to take a win away from Clayton Edmonds? Of course, 6 wins from 6 so far for Clayton Edmonds. 100% win rate for the number 146. And that's got to be intimidating when you're up against Marco Holt, who's his first season on the GP50. Yeah, 100%. And Clayton, only one of 2 riders with a 100% record so far. Of course, the other being in the AC40 Pros with Archie O'Brien to take, of course, the opening 6 wins. And this time, Clayton Edmonds, well, he's not got it all his own way, because coming across the line, the gap last time around was 0.2 of a second. Looks as though he's just eked it out to 0.6 of a second. Archie Gibbs, however, still holding on to 3rd place and doing a good job at the moment, holding on to it pretty comfortably, 1.7 seconds ahead of Harry Payne. Archie, if you can pick up a podium on your first race in GP50s, well, surely that's not just going to buoy him for the rest of the weekend on the 50 bikes, but also on the mini bikes as well. This is perfect for Archie Gibbs. Number 3 is exactly what he needs. Like you say, a 3rd place in his first ever race on the GP50s. It's exactly where he wants to be, exactly where you want to start. As there's battles all through this field, as the number 90 of Isaiah Devine is battling it out with Bill Harris. as I with a new livery this weekend, with riding for a new team now. We're used to seeing him with blue all over the bike, so it's just getting used to that black and red livery, but looking really strong ahead of the number 14 of Bill Harris.
I was just about to say he's running a very swish new livery as Isaiah, and doing a good job of it, holding off Bill Harris. Of course, Bill, younger brother of Ronnie, and he's desperately trying to find a way around the 90 ahead, but not able to do so. Takes a look down the inside, but the apex is being covered off very nicely by Divine up in front. But Clayton Edmonds last time around, fastest lap of the race, 47.503, was half a tenth of a second faster than Marco Holt. So both riders setting their fastest laps last time around. Archie Gibbs holding on to third place, now stretching the gap out to 1.9 seconds over Harry Payne. So Harry Payne's, it looks as though at the moment, unless all things don't go well for the top three, he's going to hold on to that probably agonising streak of fourth place finishes. So surely it's going to come good for Harry Payne. He'll get that podium that he richly deserves, because he's progressed incredibly over the last 2 years of us watching him here at FAB. And Bill Harris getting a really good run out of the final corner, and once again Isaiah doing a great job just hugging the apex, making sure that he rides very nicely, just very well, I say over defensive, he's not riding over defensive at all, but he's putting the bike in all the right places.
Yeah, he is, absolutely. I mean, he's had an incredible run so far in the GP50s. His best results have been fourth. His worst result has been fifth, so incredibly consistent for the number 11, and he's just trying to reel in Archie Gibbs to try and make that break and get his first podium on the Metrokit GP50 machine, and it will mean so much to the number 11 if he can make that stick. But Archie Gibbs riding such an impressive race. Whether Archie Gibbs finishes third or fourth in this race, it is incredibly impressive for his first race on the GP50 machine, considering moving up mid-season from the Minimoto up to the GP50 with 6 laps to go in this race for the MK GP50s. Clayton Edmonds has stretched that lead out at the front with a 47.4 on the last lap, matching the fastest lap of the race that was set earlier on. 1.1 second lead it is over the number 58 of Marco Holt. So Clayton Edmonds really strong out the front, but it is all about this battle for third. The number 3, Archie Gibbs, first ever race on an MK GP50, and he leads in third place ahead of Harry Payne. Harry just reeling him in so slightly. I think we have a faller down at turn 3. It's the number 7 of Luke Fitchett that's gone down, so not what the number 7 would have wanted, but and there he is, the number 7. Really unfortunate for him, not what he would have wanted at all. But there is the number 3, Archie Gibbs, just flying through your shot. A little bit of inside curb there for the number 3. Those riders just got to be a little bit careful there, because Luke Fitchett right on the apex, right in the middle of the curb.
Yeah, I was just going to say the yellow flag was out, and they were taking that apex a bit too tight for me, with the bike and the marshal being on the side. So these guys just right on the edge of what should be allowed, but back underway, and is Luke Fitchett, so he's back on the bike, which is good to see. Is the 7, he's back under and a lap down now, but that won't matter. Luke, he'll just be picking up points by finishing in this one, which is what you'll all need to do, of course. Even if it's not going your way, come home for points. They mean a lot come the end of the season. And Archie Gibbs now, he's starting to come under pressure as we go on, 4 laps left to go. And, well, the gap had got up to just under 2 seconds. Harry Payne's now got it down to 9 tenths, so he's starting to take about 2.5 tenths of a second out of Archie Gibbs for the last 3 or 4 laps or so. And in fact, he's getting, you can see, noticeably closer as Harry's starting to put the pressure on Archie Gibbs. And Archie, this is one thing that he won't have had yet, is to have to defend on this new bike. He can go out there and put some laps in it, but it's when you're going to have to start perhaps just changing your style, changing your lines, because Harry, he's had some time on this bike, he knows what to do with it. He's made some overtakes, and it looks as though at the moment he's looking as though he's got a little bit more confidence on that bike.
Yeah, it's a very good point. Archie Gibbs will never have been in a racing situation on this machine, will never have raced against another rider on it. Might have had a few battles in practice, but it's not the same thing with the pressure of a race. With your first ever race on an MK GP50 machine, these riders so mature in the way they go about things, but it is now a battle for third place between these guys. Clayton Edmonds 2.6 seconds away out the front ahead of Marco Holt in second, but who's it going to be who is going to take that final spot on the podium? Will it be the number 3 or will it be the number 11? These two guys battling it out. Number 11's been so consistent this year with his best result of 4th, still in 4th. He wants that first podium, but what a race it would be for Archie Gibbs to get his first ever podium in his first ever race on an MK GP50. So these guys battling it out for third, but it is the number 146 of Clayton Edmonds in first. So 146 ahead of the number 58, Marco Holt. Marco Holt in second on the number 58. But Clayton flying out the front. And there is that battle a little bit further back. That's the battle between Isaiah Devine and Bill Harris. Isaiah, like we said, running that new livery for the team MDMI. Second year riding the Metrokits since moving to England to be able to race in the FAB-Racing Minibike British Championships. There is our race leader, though, the number 146, Clayton Edmonds. Just a couple of laps for him, and he will take the race 1 win for the MKGP 50s.
Yep, he's about to take the last lap flag, and it's going to looking as though it's going to go 7 for 7 for Clayton Edmonds. He's got a pretty healthy gap over Marco Holt. Marco just falling off in the late stage of this one. 4.2 seconds now between first and second place. Clayton Edmonds is he's well on his way to another maximum. He's of course got 2 more races to do so this weekend if he's to make it a third consecutive hat-trick of wins. Archie Gibbs is still holding on to third position, but it's 0.2 of a second across the line. Harry Payne is really starting to ramp up the pressure, and you can see Clayton just getting caught out there by a bit of lap traffic of a little bit further down the order. I think was that Noah Guillory or was that Isaiah Devine? It's 41, it's Noah Guillory. Yeah, he's getting caught up, but around the final corner will come Clayton Edmonds. He's going to open up 7 from 7 to open the season. Mega race there from Clayton Edmonds. He is your race winner here in the MKGP 50s. It will be Marco Holt in second position, which I'm sure will be very happy. Another second place for him. And then it is Harry Payne that managed to steal it on the final lap. Harry Payne, his first ever podium on the MKGP 50 bike. Absolutely made up for him. What a result there from him. Just managed to get past Archie Gibbs. Archie is going to be pretty disconsolate with that, unfortunately losing it on the final lap. Both riders, however, clearly very bright futures.
Yeah, but he should be so proud of that fourth and very nearly a podium in his first race on MKGP 50 machine. And that podium will come. He's got plenty of time to rack that one up. It was his first ever race, and a brilliant race it was from him. But it was Clayton Edmonds, the number 146, who's taken 7 victories from 7 races, ahead of Marco Holt in second, and Harry Payne rounds out the podium. Archie Gibbs in fourth, Isaiah Devine in fifth, Bill Harris in sixth, Noah Guillory in 7th, and Luke Fitchett, after nursing that bike home, finishes in 8th place.
What a result there for Clayton Edmonds, going and opening his account for the weekend with another victory, which makes it 7 in a row in this MKGP 50s. And Harry Payne, equally, I'm sure he will be absolutely delighted with his first ever podium. And first podium this season. He's finished in 4th so many times so far this season out of the 6 races. He's finally got it. And now, surely for Harry, the next step is to start challenging the like of Clayton. Of course, the two getting on very well in the paddock as well. So I'm sure Harry will just be saying, "I'm coming for you. I'm coming for you." And Marco Holt, you've got to be very happy for Marco Holt. He's of course making this debut on this bike, and second place, keeping the pressure on Clayton.
Yeah, continuing to put the pressure, like you say. His first season on the MKGP 50 machine. As so many of these riders in this class this year are making their debuts on gearbox bikes, which is brilliant to see. Clayton Edmonds with that extra little bit of experience, and it's really working for the number 146. Clayton Edmonds just absolutely dominating out the front ahead of Marco Holt. Consistency is key in this class. Clayton Edmonds consistently winning. Like you say, Harry Payne consistently in the top 5 now with his first podium. Marco pretty consistent as well. It's going to take some beating.
It is indeed. But, they will be back tomorrow for their second and third races of the weekend. Thank you very much for joining us for this first race of the MKGP 50s. And, of course, if you've joined us for the rest of it, plenty of action has taken place and plenty is yet to come. My name is Gareth Hall, joined as always by Tristan Finocchiaro. We'll be bringing you all of the round 3 action here from Red Lodge, the FAB-Racing Minibike British Championship, the official partner to the British Superbikes and part of the Road to MotoGP programme, as we look to create and to nurture the next and burgeoning talents in British racing on 2 wheels and sometimes even 3. And we've got the Extreme 200 making their way out, and as they just start their green flag lap here. Extreme 200s, the most powerful bike we've got here at Fab. Are we going to say that, or is the 70s a little bit faster?
That's a good question. They're probably not far off. The lap records are similar, I think. That's a very good question, actually.
I'll have a look.
I suppose in CC they are the biggest in CC. We've got 150s and 85cc machines, even 105s on the two strokes in this one. There's a brilliant wheelie there from the number 44 of James Dutton, who is on pole position in this one. He heads ahead of Rossi Banham, who's racing on his pit bike 140, as we see someone on the side of the circuit there. Really unfortunate for, it's not the way you would have wanted to start that. We can just see the number on the front. That is the number 11, which we don't have, so possibly the number 110 of Mark Mobbs, who's going to line up on 9th place on the grid. Rossi Banham's going to be 2nd, Chris Wells is going to be 3rd, Reece Peacock in 4th, Nathan Riggy, Jack Andrews, Ashley Thompson, David Curtis, Mark Mobbs and Aston Gilson round out your top 10 for this grid. A 10 rider grid for race 1 for the Extreme 200s. Jamie King starting from far back there on one of the bikes. I think that's Jamie King's leathers, so he's at the back of this grid, so just opting to have a go in the Extreme 200s class. That'll be him riding in 3 categories this weekend, if that is him at the back of this grid. But the number 144, James Dutton, riding over in the British Superbike paddock as well, a rider in Junior Supersport in the past, as well as Rossi Banham. Actually, these guys will have raced each other in Junior Supersports, but Rossi Banham running on the pit bike 140, so he's just down on power compared to James Dutton. James, you can expect to run at the front of this one. He's comfortably faster than everyone else in qualifying as they look to the lights for the first time. It's a brilliant start from your leader, number 44, James Dutton, and he already has a good half a second lead as he heads into turn 1 for the first time. Rossi Banham slotting himself into 2nd place, just ahead of the number 29, Reece Peacock, another pit bike 140 rider in there. Chris Wells you should look out for as well, but it is number 441, James Dutton, who's flying out the front of this one with those all red Honda leathers.
Yeah, and well, we've seen 4 different winners from 6 races in the Extreme 200 so far this season. Just to go back to your point, the Extreme 200s is 0.2 of a second faster than the 70s in the fastest lap here, so roughly around about the fastest category we've got. However, well, we'll see if Dutton can do better than the 45.3, I believe the fastest lap is around here, as he comes around and finishes the first lap. It's a 47.8 off of the line, a 49.7, so already 2.3 seconds ahead of Rossi Banham. As you say, Rossi on a slightly slower bike compared to James Dutton, so this should be a walk in the park if all things go to plan for the 441 of James Dutton. Rossi Banham is going to have to hold off the likes of Reece Peacock behind. The gap was 0.7 of a second crossing the line. Jack Andrews in 4th place with Nathan Riggy in 5th. Then you've got Aston Gilson, Ashley Thompson, then Chris Wells, David Curtis and Mark Mobbs listed to run. Haven't yet crossed the line on lap 1 though, so it is still James Dutton leading away. And well, if the first lap goes to plan, this is going to be a country mile of a time difference between Dutton and Banham come the end of this race, if all things stay the same.
Yeah, it should be, theoretically. He sets the fastest lap of the race on his first flying lap, the 45.7. Not far off the pole time as well, so we can expect to see him just continuing putting those sorts of laps as the race goes on. It's a 5-second lead that Dutton has now over Banham. Reece Peacock 0.7 behind Banham, so we can hope for a battle for 2nd place in this one, as Jamie King further back. It looks like it's Jamie King's leathers. I don't know if he's running on someone else's bike, but cutting all over the inside of the curbs there, just trying to find the fastest way around this Red Lodge circuit. It is race 1 for the Extreme 200s. It is James Dutton that leads, Rossi Banham in 2nd, Reece Peacock in 3rd. What can Reece do about Rossi Banham in 2nd? We saw a terrific win for Rossi earlier on in the pit bike 140s. Just carved his way through a load of lap traffic. Everything that was thrown at him, the number 196 with the yellow flashes on the leathers and the helmet, carved his way through the field, carved his way through the traffic, and brought home the first victory in the pit bike 140s. And he's out here on his pit bike 140 trying to get some more silverware for that machine in the Extreme 200 class. It was a good battle between him and Taylor Lawrence, but in this one he's just slightly on his own a little bit. But what can Reece Peacock do? Both these guys very, very strong runners over in the pit bike 140s, and like we said earlier on the show, Gareth, 4 years ago today, Rossi Banham started his racing career here at FAB-Racing on a mini moto, and now 4 years later he's still here.
Yeah, and doing very nicely. In fact, if he picks up a podium in this one, of course you don't want to foreshadow anything, this will be his first podium of the season. He's the only rider inside the top 8 in the championship that's yet to pick up a podium over the opening 2 rounds back at Lid. 4th place was his best result. He picked that up 4 times, both in races 2 and 3 of round 1 and of round 2. So, well, he wants to be back on the rostrum, and at the moment he's holding on to 2nd position quite comfortably ahead of Reece Peacock. The gap now between himself and Reece, 1.1 seconds. Then Reece has got a comfy margin, 4.4 seconds back to Nathan Riggy in 4th position. Behind we've got Jack Andrews. He's got about 3.3 seconds from himself and Ashley Thompson, and Ashley Thompson just holding off Aston Gilson. Aston 1.6 seconds, in fact taking a little bit of time out of him on that last lap, so Aston starting to try and close up the back of Ash Thompson in 6th position. However, it is still James Dutton leading away comfortably, 11 seconds across the line with 5 laps left to go in this one. It's an easy ride for James Dutton on a 4.41. Behind Rossi Banham, still trying to hold off Reece Peacock. In fact, he's gapped it from 1.1 up to 2 seconds on that last lap. So Rossi just holding on, in fact just sitting up and just enjoying himself, it seems.
Yeah, definitely. He's using all the track on the exit there, which is something we see a lot from the BSB riders coming to ride pit bikes and Extreme 200 machines here at FAB-Racing. They use all the track, they have a bit of fun, pop some wheelies, skids, stoppies, absolutely everything, and you can tell they're enjoying this. Look, you see every inch of the circuit there for the number 196 of Rossi Banham, riding 300s, has been riding 300s and standard Moto 3s over in the British Talent Cup, so he's well accustomed to using all the circuit as those riders do in the British Superbike paddock. But Reece Peacock looking so menacing, pushing very, very hard with the all black bike, all black leathers, black helmet for the number 29. He's really trying to reel in Rossi Banham, but we know how strong Rossi is on that machine. They're setting similar lap times, but I think with considering their similar pace, I think it's going to be a tall order for Reece Peacock to be able to reel in the number 196 of Rossi Banham. We can see Reece Peacock there going in the far end of the circuit. Takes a much wider line compared to what we're used to seeing in all the other classes from Rossi and all the other classes, all the other bikes. He seems to have a novel line there. It seems to be working for him though, because he's up into 3rd place in this race as James Dutton sets the fastest lap of the race again on that last lap. All these guys running either Extreme 200 machines or Pit Bike 140s. Of course, Extreme 200s, anything really under 200cc pretty much classes. They're converted motocross bikes into mini supermotos, so the likes of your Honda CRF 150s, your KTM 85cc's, 105cc's, all these bikes that you'd see on motocross tracks have been converted to race here at FAB-Racing on these karting circuits, and it's brilliant to see. They're fun little bikes to ride, and it always gives us some great racing as well.
Yeah, and we tend to find a lot of BSB riders who have made their way up through FAB and made their way into the BSB paddock and onto the bigger bikes, come back down to the Extreme 200s and just get some track time, get some practice, and equally just enjoy the community. Of course, a lot of them would have grown up and enjoyed racing with some of these guys in the paddock in FAB, and come back and enjoy themselves, chat to some of the youngsters and mentor them and show them the ropes when it comes to riding styles. And of course the Extreme 200s a little bit more robust than some of the mini motos and the mini GP, so they can take a little, well, how should we put it? The track limits become a little bit more relaxed when you're on an Extreme 200.
It's a bit easier when you've got suspension compared to when you're an adult on one of those mini motos, and you'll feel every single bump when you go off onto the side of the circuit and onto the rumble strips. But wheelies already halfway around the circuit, and James Dutton on the final lap of this Extreme 200 race already celebrating. He knows he's got this one in the bag, a good 2 seconds a lap quicker than anyone else all race long on that Extreme 200 machine. Heads down to the final corner for the final time, and it's the first win. Race 1 for the Extreme 200 goes to the number 44, James Dutton, across the line. A really brilliant victory from him, absolutely dominated ahead of the rest of the field. It's going to be Rossi Banham that's going to come across the line to take second place, and it's a long wait for the number 196 of Rossi Banham, 2 seconds a lap slower than James Dutton. How long are we going to wait for Rossi to come across the line? And there he is. It is second place for Rossi Banham. Reece Peacock in third. Your 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, so James Dutton winning by 21 seconds. It is a comfortable win there for him. Rossi Banham, however, I'm sure will be pretty happy. Another podium for the 196, and he adds to his victory in the pit bike 140s with a second place in the extremes. And they'll be back tomorrow for their second races of the weekend. And, also, they've got Nathan Riggy. I'm pretty sure decent results there for Nathan. 4th place finish for him, and equally Jack Andrews, Ashley Thompson and Ashton Gilson. 7th place in the standings, therefore picking up some pretty healthy points in the championship. And although it might be a slightly smaller Extreme 2 hard grid, that doesn't make any difference. You all want points for that championship. So they will be making their way back into the paddock, rolling back in, and I'm sure all be getting an early night, as all racers should on a race weekend. They'll all be tucked up in bed by about 7:30.
Party animals, a lot of them.
But we'll all see that. Next up, we've got the Mini F1 sidecars will be out, and Mini F1 sidecars is usually dominated by Mick Williams and Michael Elms on the 26 machine. Really, just head and shoulders above everyone else. So, for everyone else that kind of sits behind them, it's elbows out. I say elbows out. It's side panels for these bikes out. It's using your passenger to block any contact, as we saw back in Lid. But it's usually a pretty fun race when we see the likes of Jason and Leo Greenstreet, Adrian and Claire Ems, of course Mark Parker, John Hosker, Dave Mariota Glover, John Keats is joining us for this one. But Mick Williams, Michael Elms lining up in pole position, comfortably ahead of anyone else. What are we thinking? What's the margin that we're expecting to see from them?
I think we're going to see an absolute surprise, and Jason and Leo Greenstreet are going to be able to stick it to Mick Williams.
Big call.
I wouldn't put it past them, to be honest. They've been looking strong. They're getting stronger and stronger. It is a very tall order to beat the dominating force that is Mick Williams and Michael Elms on that number 26 outfit, and we'll have to wait and see what is going to happen. I'm excited to see if anyone can stick it to them, but like you say, it is you'd be a fool to put your money against them. But Jason and Leo Greenstreet on that number 90 outfit in second place. They're going to be looking to try and do that. Number 230, Mark Parker as well. Look out for him. But it is Mick Williams and Michael Elms on pole position, ahead of Jason and Leo Greenstreet in second. Mark Parker in third on the number 230, ahead of Adrian and Claire Ems on the number 76 in fourth. John Hosker on the number 127. He lines up in fifth spot on this Mini F1 sidecar grid, ahead of Dave and Iona Glover. John Keats on the number 89 lines up in seventh, on the fourth row of the grid, ahead of the number 333, Scott Jewett in eighth. These guys, they're set off for their first green lap of the weekend here. It's race one for the Mini F1 sidecars. A different track layout expect to see here for these guys. They cut out the infield section at turn 2. They don't use the hairpin on the inside of the circuit, and straight to the back straight for these guys. But it's still going to be a scintillating race, and expect to see some action, probably some grass cutting as well. Yeah, we saw back in Lid, they really started to turn the heat up when we see a few more than the sidecars, when they start to turn up. We had a bit of a sparse grid last season, but this time around we're starting to see more and more, which is great to see the sidecars, because it's always fascinating watching them. And what will we see from the likes of the Greenstreets on the 90 machine, the 230 there? That's it's Mark Parker, Dave Glover, Iona Glover, they will be on the grid. Adrian and Claire Ems, they've picked up some podiums recently on the 76. What can they do? They'll be lining up from fourth on the grid as they roll into their grid slot, as everyone, I'm sure, will be waiting on the lights very, very shortly as everyone starts to file their way into their allotted grid slots. It will be Mick Williams and Michael Elms lining up on pole on the Red Bull 26 machine. What can they do? They've got the inside line into T1. Will Jason and Leo Greenstreet get a good start? It's going to be first versus second. Who gets the roll off the line? You can see it's a great start there from your championship leaders. Oh, it's a dreadful start for the 90. The great Jason and Leo Greenstreet dropping all the way down the order. Just couldn't quite get the bike started, and he's going to have to sweep around and just about hold on to fourth position. But already
you can see your leaders, your pole sitters, streaking out ahead. The green streaks starting to reel in some positions they lost off the start, hugging the inside line. And there you go, back up, making up 2 positions already over the first half of the lap.
Just bogged down off the line, the number 90 of Jason Greenstreet, not the start they would have wanted. I was just looking at the reaction times of Mick Williams off of the line, and his reaction times were perfect. As soon as those lights went out, that clutch was out and he was away. Of course, it was amplified a bit by the dreadful start by Jason Greenstreet, and it's going to be entertaining watching him carve his way through the field as he's going to try and get back up into podium contention. But it is Mick Williams and Michael Elms that are flying out the front, already 1 lap down on a 41-second lap, and they're 3 seconds ahead of anyone else. Mark Parker, the number 2 throw, a good start from him to get up into second. There's a big moment there as 2 outfits come together. That's not what these guys would have wanted. As the number 8 of Vince Bailey that's gone out of that one, so not exactly what he would have wanted at all. They've just came together with another outfit. Big moment there, big crash.
Yeah, unfortunately the passenger coming off, and that sent the bike into a spin, losing all momentum, and that was between themselves and the 133 the 333 of Scott Jewett, and I believe that might have been the Glovers that were involved in that one as well, as they were trying to go 3 wide into the back end of the circuit. It shows you that unfortunately doesn't all go into one corner. These corners, they are much wider than you think they are, and as soon as you lose a passenger, that is when all the weight comes off that side of the bike. Very easy to turn around. There's a big wobble there for the M's, and that's going to open the door for Jason and Leo Greenstreet, as Claire just struggled to get her body weight swapped across the side of the bike, as it's a very technical far end of the circuit, and the bike just losing one of its wheels on the ground, and therefore that just allowed Jason then to close up. But already 9.2 seconds for Mick Williams and Michael Elms leading this one away. It's a slightly shorter race, so only 3 laps left to go, and they're already absolutely storming off into the distance. Behind is still the battle now between the M's and the Greenstreet pairing, with Adrian and Claire M's holding off Jason and Leo Greenstreet. And this is a battle we've seen on circuit, and in fact this is the battle that we saw in circuit that ended in tears.
Yeah, I was hoping you weren't going to mention that and curse these guys. But brilliant recovery so far for the number 90, Jason and Leo Greenstreet. They've managed to recover really well from that dreadful start to the race, but they're just caught up with back markers there. So the number 3 of Dave and Iona Glover just getting caught by Jason and Leo Greenstreet, so that's just held them back a little bit. So they've got all that work to do yet again, but Adrian and Claire Ems looking strong, setting some fast laps there. 40.3, faster than Mark Parker in second place, but 2 seconds down the road. It's going to be a tall order. There's an outfit being wheeled back to the pits. That's the same one that went out earlier on, so no new news there, but it is Mick Williams and Michael Elms. No new news there either, because these guys are constantly at the front of this one, and they're always dominating at the front of this race as they head down to the far end of the circuit for the final time. They just come past the outfit that's being pushed to the side. They head down to the back straight for the final time. These guys so strong. It's 13.9 seconds it was last time over the line. What will it be when they cross the line? We will find out shortly as they head through the final corner for the final time. Mick Williams and Michael Elms come across the line to take victory for race 1 here at Red Lodge. It goes to the number 26 outfit once again. 100% win rate for these guys so far this season. Who's it going to be that's going to take second place? Is it going to be Mark Parker or have Adrian and Claire Ems managed to caught up? No, it is number 2 throw. Mark Parker takes second. Adrian and Claire Ems will take third, just ahead of Jason and Leo Greenstreet. Set at a fast lap on the very end of that last.
Yeah, going purple on the last lap. That's not bad. Well, clearly your leaders were just holding themselves off. But brilliant win once again. That's another victory for Mick Williams and Michael Elms to rack up. And but Mark Parker very happy on the 230, and equally Claire Ems and Adrian Ems on the 76. Another podium for them. Pardon me. There we go. And Jason and Leo Greenstreet on 90. 0.6 of a second between themselves and them, so watch out for that battle as that evolves throughout the weekend as we sit here in sunny Suffolk here at Red Lodge for the 3rd round of the FAB-Racing Mini Bike British Championships. My name is Gareth Ball, joined by Tristan Finocchiaro, and we'll be bringing you all the action. Hopefully you've been enjoying all the afternoon so far, and make sure you get in touch by going to all the socials. Of course, you can go on FAB-Racing on their Facebook and on their YouTube. Motorsport.radio is where you can listen live and of course watch all the live pictures here from Red Lodge, and we hope you're having a very sunny Saturday afternoon. You've got the barbecue going, you've got a cold drink in your hand, and you're enjoying some fantastic racing. We are about to get ourselves ready for the Premier Class, the final step of the ladder in FAB. It's the Mini GP70s, the MK GP70s, and these guys, they know how to race. They've been here for a while. They're getting themselves readied up to head off to the likes of the British Talent Cup after this one. We've got the likes of Ethan Sparks, Mason Foster, Philip Soroviak, Ronnie Harris. The list goes on. Henry McCartney. So many potential race winners in this one.
Yeah, absolutely. All these guys pushing to. They all want this win. This is the Premier Class here at FAB Racing. The top of the tree here for these guys, for the junior riders in the FAB Racing Minibike British Championships. Of course, the official partner series to the British Superbike Championship, and on Dorna's official Road to MotoGP. This is where the road begins. This is where these guys start off their racing careers. So many of these riders have made their way up through the ranks to MotoGP, through Talent Cup, through Junior Supersport. Who will it be that's going to move up to British Talent Cup next year? We know for a fact that some of these riders have their eye on the British Talent Cup for next year, but before that they have to deal with a season of the MKGP70s. Who is going to be victorious this season? So far it's 100% win rate for every race he's finished for Ethan Sparks, but Mason Foster looking very, very menacing here for the first race of the MKGP70s here at Red Lodge. Riders between 10 years and 6 months, very specific, to 15 years old are allowed to race in this category, and of course all these guys would have completed through all the mini motor classes, through the GP50 class, some of them still competing in the GP50 class, to ride here at the Premier Class for FAB Racing.
As they get ready and kick off their green flag lap, of course one warm-up lap for these riders here, and it will be Mason Foster, the 88, lining up on pole position. Charlie Huntingford, fantastic qualifying result for Charlie. He lines up in second place with championship leader Ethan Sparks. He's taken 5 wins out of 6 so far in this GP70 category. He lines up in third with Philip Soroviak in 4th place. Henry McCartney, watch out for him, from 5th on the grid alongside Clayton Edmonds, of course winner in the GP50 earlier on today, with Ollie Horner in 7th, Ronnie Harris down in 8th place, with Ben Jolliffe in 9th and Harry Payne rounding out your top 10. Outside the top 10 on row 6 is Luke Schofield and Paddy Moore, and Paddy making his debut in FAB in 12th position, with Felix Dorling and Greg Marshall your final row on the grid on row 13 in 13th and 14th positions. We've got a rider to the side on the exit of the S's at the back end of the circuit.
That's Mason Foster. I'm pretty sure that's the black and the black and purple. It is Mason Foster, the number 88. And you'll recognise that livery on that MK GP70 machine, and I think that's Rossi Banham marshalling on the side of the circuit there. You could tell by the noodle hair for the number 196 racing. He got changed pretty quickly. He wasn't on track that long ago. Are we going to have a delayed start here? Are they going to try and get that bike restarted and into this race? But I don't think, that doesn't look like it's going to. I wonder what's happened there. That could be anything. Yeah,
you can see him just trying to bump start it as but it is going underway, so he's going to come around to start. But is there a lingering issue with that bike? That's the worst case scenario for your pole sitter. You do not want to start off your weekend in your first clear run to the first corner with an issue of the bike. But here we go, Mason Foster, he does line up on pole position. Charlie Huntingford in second. What can he do from second as they look to the lights? Kicking off race 1. It's a big wheelie off the line for Huntingford. That's not a great start, and that's allowed Ethan Sparks up the inside. Philip Soroviak couldn't quite get down the inside of Charlie Huntingford, but good start there from Ethan. Back from third on the grid, he got up in the inside, and he's now on the tail of Mason Foster. Is there an issue with Mason Foster's bike? It looks as though it's working fine now, because he's off and underway, leading this one.
Yeah, it would have been a heart-in-mouth moment for Foster and his family, as it looked as if he wasn't going to start this race. He's got his hand up. That's Foster out of the race. That is Foster's second-place man in the championship, has pulled to the side of the circuit, just out of shots. And then that is Ethan Sparks that leads the race ahead of Charlie Huntingford. Mason Foster was looking so strong, and there he is. Look at him, he's so upset with that one, and I don't blame him. And Noodles goes across to try and help him back into the race, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen, and that is curtains for the number 88, Mason Foster. He's looked so strong all weekend. He looked as if he was going to try and have a go at Ethan Sparks, who's won every race he's finished so far and leads the championship, and that is so important for the championship. That is big.
Yeah, huge moment here, and Mason Foster just being wheeled around, but round towards the front. It is Mason Foster. It is Ethan Sparks leading away. Charlie Hunterford in second position. Philip Soroviak now up into third. Clayton Edmonds fourth, and Ollie Horner in fifth place as the top five are split by 2 seconds coming across the line. 13 laps left to go, so plenty more racing here for the MKGP 70s, and it is the man that has won every race so far that he's finished, which is all apart from one, the first race of the season, which he went down at Lydd, and it is Ethan Sparks, the rider from Maidstone in Kent, and he's leading away 45.5 across the line. Last time was about a tenth of a second faster than Charlie Hunterford in second position. Philip Soroviak still holding on to third, ahead of Clayton Edmonds. Clayton, a good run so far in fourth position.
A solid move there up the inside from Henry McCartney, just making his way through on Ronnie Harris there. That was on Philip. Sorry. On Luke Schofield, there, up into 7th place. Good move from him. Harry Payne trying to make moves. Riders all through this field. So many names that are so quick in this category, and that's why we love the MKGP 70 Championship. Of course, the Premier Class at FAB-Racing. Philip Soroviak with the fastest lap of the race on that last lap. One of the only riders in the low 45s. The other guys 45.4 and 45 for the front two, but Philip Soroviak 45.2. What can the number 75 of Philip Soroviak do? Yet to have a victory. He's been on the podium. He's had a couple of second places. The 12-year-old from London, of course, Polish family for the number 75. Best achievement has been 5th place in the GP50s last year. Was 14th in the championship, but now is coming so strong in this GP70 category. He's had 6 podiums to his name, and the only rider to finish on the podium in every race so far. 4 second places and 2 third places for Philip Soroviak, and he's up into second place now, so he's ahead of Charlie Huntingford. So that is Philip Soroviak into second place behind Ethan Sparks. Ethan has won every race that he's finished, with that 1 DNF crashing out of the first race at Lydd for round 1 12 weeks ago. But now, what can Philip Soroviak do? He's looking menacing, got such a nice style, hangs off the bike, elbows down.
Yeah, and he's so close to that race victory. He's yet to pick one up, and he even said to us that he didn't quite think he was on the pace to win this time around. And well, he's right on the tail of Ethan Sparks and sweeping around, taking a slightly different line to Ethan as they run around towards the back end of the circuit as they start. 9 laps left to go, and Philip Soroviak starting to put the pressure on. As you say, he got up past Charlie Hunterford, and they're starting to drop Charlie a little bit. So Philip now starting to really put the metal, or the pedal. I say the pedal to the metal, the
metal to the pedal.
Yeah, something like that. So as he closes in on Ethan Sparks, but we know just how good at defending Ethan Sparks is. He has really made a career so far out of keeping people behind him, when surely you think that all things would go the opposite way around. But this time around, Philip Soroviak is trying to take some time out of Ethan Sparks. The gap last time as they crossed the line was under half a second. It was 0.47 of a second. Mason Foster sets the fastest lap. Now he's underway. He's starting to put the hammer down, but unfortunately he's down in 13th position, and that is only 3 championship points. And to lose such a huge amount when you've got the likes of Ethan Sparks currently picking up 25 could play hugely into the end of this one. We've got another rider down with the bike, or a slight bike issue it seems, down at the side of the circuit.
Felix Dorling, the number 87, unfortunately out of 14th place, so not what the number 87 will have wanted. But like you say, 88 Mason Foster doing all he can to try and score as many points as possible, but that is huge. He's going to be hoping and praying that the likes of Philip Soroviak and Charlie Huntingford can take points away from Ethan Sparks, because Ethan is so dominant out the front of this one. And there he is, the number 88, trying so hard, pushing really hard, has the fastest lap of the race with a 45.1, but I don't think he's going to score many more than 3 points in this one, as Greg Marshall is a good way up the road from him. It's possible with 7 laps to go, but it's a very tall order for the number 88. We know he's good, but it is a very difficult task, like we said. But this battle at the front, these top 3 riders all within a second, it could go either way. Charlie Huntingford the fastest of the three on that last lap, pretty much matching Mason Foster's fastest lap of the race with a 45.1. So don't discard the number 76, Charlie Huntingford, missing out on the LC40 Elite Championship last year by a single point. So he's going to be wanting to prove a point here this year in the MKGP 70s.
Yeah, and he's been mega so far this weekend, really showing some decent pace. Ethan Sparks leading from Philip Soroviak and Charlie Huntingford, as you say, in third position. The gap between the top three is less than a second as they cross the line. 5.5 back to Clayton Edmonds. Henry McCartney holding on to fifth position ahead of Ollie Horner. Ollie now within striking distance. 0.8 of a second is the gap between himself and Henry McCartney, but it is still Ethan Sparks holding on to the lead of this one. Philip Soroviak trying to put the pressure on, but we're over half distance now. We've got about 5.5 laps left to go in this race, and it's the 62 leading from the 75. And, well, the 76, Charlie Huntingford, there we go. There's that Soroviak that's made his move past Ethan Sparks. Got the move done. He's now leading this one. So Ethan is going to have to come back past him. Now, this is what we saw. We saw this happen. Exact thing happened back in Lid. Philip Soroviak made his way up into the lead. Ethan Sparks dropped down into second. And this is where Ethan just, well, he resets, he refocuses, and he got back past. Can he do it this time around? We've got 5 laps left to go. Philip Soroviak is now in uncharted territory for him. He's never won a race here at FAB. He's now in a position to, what can he do? Can he break away from Ethan Sparks, or will we see the man that's currently on an incredible win streak of 5 wins in a row here in the MKGP 70s close in and pass him?
Both these riders need to stay really calm here for about 5.5 laps to go here for these guys. Plenty of time for anything to happen as they're going to go through the last corner one more time. They go across the line, and it's 4 laps to go for these guys. So the number 75, Philip Soroviak, is that leads ahead of Ethan Sparks, as Ethan Sparks has a look down into turn 2. Real defensive from Philip Soroviak over the paintwork. Nearly gets his front end chopped off by Ethan Sparks, and now he's lost a lot of ground. You could see how hard he had to brake not to hit Ethan Sparks. Neither rider wanted to give up that position.
No, and that's going to open the door for Charlie Huntingford, who's closed right up to the back of Philip Soroviak. So there was that one moment that Ethan, and this is where we just know he's such a ruthless rider. He finds every opportunity and doesn't let that adversity of dropping down into second position phase him. He's now moving up, and he's got some lap traffic in between himself and Philip Soroviak. So Philip, unfortunately, just that slight error, is now going to have to go back on the offensive. We've got 3 laps left to go in this one, and in fact this lap traffic is not going to help Charlie Huntingford, because he's going to have to slow himself, take a slightly unnecessary line in towards Senna, the first part of the lap. But Philip, you can see, just starting to close back up to Ethan now. So it does look as though Philip Soroviak has got the pace on Ethan Sparks. It's just keeping his nerve once he gets to the lead. So you can see he's closed up possibly around half a second in this first half of this lap. But is that going to be in the back end of Philip Soroviak's head, that once he got past, he just made that slight error, got over the concrete, and still almost stood himself up. But behind, Mason Foster has got past Greg Marshall, so he's now up into 12th position, and he's only 2 seconds off of Paddy Moore. So he's on the warpath to try and reclaim some points. But with Ethan Sparks currently leading from Philip Soroviak, it is going to be mighty close, because you know, Mason, well, losing any points in the championship is not ideal, but when you're losing such a handful that Mason is at the moment, he needs to recover as many positions as possible. But 2 laps left to go, make that about 1.5 laps, and it's Ethan Sparks on the 62 leading from the 75 for Philip Soroviak. And Philip, as we said, yet to win a race. He's finished second already 4 times this season. He was the class winner at round 1, where he picked up 3 second place finishes, which managed to get him the class win ahead of Ethan and ahead of Mason. Well, as we come around to start the final lap, it is Ethan Sparks from Philip Soroviak, but it looks as though the gap's now extended out to 0.8 of a second. Is this just a little bit too much for Philip?
It looks like Ethan's got this one in the bag, but never say never in racing. He's got enough of a breathing distance just to relax a little bit. The 10-year-old from Maidstone, of course, double champion last year, winning the MKGP 50 and the AC40 Pro Championship. He's looking to get a 3rd championship this year in the FAB-Racing lineup with the MKGP 70 Championship, the premier class here at FAB-Racing. The final step for these guys before they move ahead on to the Road to MotoGP, to British Talent Cup, and on to big things. Philip Soroviak pushing so hard to try and get onto the rear wheel of Ethan Sparks, but it's going to be Ethan Sparks that takes a race 1 victory here at Red Lodge, and that is 6 victories for the number 62. A brilliant second place for Philip Soroviak, and Charlie Huntingford with his first podium in the MKGP 70s.
Yeah, Charlie Huntingford, who's yet to finish inside the top 10. He didn't finish inside the top 10 all for the entirety of the first 2 rounds of the season. Picks up a podium, his first in the GP70s. Clayton Edmonds, I'm sure, will be pretty happy with 4th place there. That is his best result of this, or matches his best result of the season. And behind Mason Foster, where is he going to recover to? It looks as though it's going to be 11th position. But, you know, I mean, take your hat off to Mason Foster. Surely most people would have given up with that issue on the bike. So disappointing. Lined up on pole position. Just couldn't quite get the bike to work, but recovering back to 11th. It's not ideal, however, it is a little bit of a disaster averted. He still managed to recover some points. However, Ethan Sparks, 6 races from 7, he has stood on the top step of the podium. It's absolutely incredible what he's managed to do on that bike.
Yeah, every race that he's finished, he's won, and you can see him on track. He's so aggressive. That move on Philip Soroviak, he wanted his way through. He wasn't having it any other way. Neither rider wanted to give up the position, but it was Ethan Sparks that took the victory once again, ahead of the number 75 Philip Soroviak, just knocking on the door of that first win. But incredible first ever podium in the MKGP 70s for Charlie Huntingford. He'll be delighted with that, and it could easily have been a victory. He was so close to the likes of Philip Soroviak and Ethan Sparks. Disaster for Mason Foster, the number 88. That's not what he would have wanted at all. Only picking up 5 points in 11th place. That's massive for the championship, with him being in 2nd place in the championship.
Yeah, and I mean, we go back to Philip Soroviak as well, finishing in 2nd. This is something we talked about in Lid. Is that first win going to be that monkey off the back that we said? Is it the one thing that he's reaching for it? We saw that he got up into lead. He just couldn't quite hold on to it. Ethan just had the wherewithal to just find out where to ascend the attack, and well, it was just that slight error from Philip Soroviak. How does he come back from this and challenge tomorrow?
Well, there will be tears, there will be celebrations when he does finally get that victory, because he had a perfect chance today as well, of course, with Mason Foster out of the race. That was one less person to have to make his way through. But going from the MKGP 70s, we move to the final race of the day, the Moto Team race. The first race for these guys here at Red Lodge Circuit in Suffolk. And it's going to be between the number 96 there on pole position with the all-black bike, the red front wheel. He lines up on pole position. That is the number 96 of Will Howarth, ahead of Jamie King in 2nd. A whole host and variety of bikes line up behind. It's one of those classes where no one bike looks the same. If you look at the grid, they all look completely different. We have some pit bike looking bikes, some bikes with fairings. There's an Aprilia RS 125 towards the back. All sorts running in the Moto Team class.
There is, and it's why we love it, isn't it? And as we said, it is not the rider that scores points in this, it is the team. So the bike scores the points, and well, leading away for the green flag lap here for the Moto Team, I believe that was Will Howarth on pole position, and Jason Pugh on the 8 bike in 2nd position. But the 133, Simon Clowes' bike is currently, I believe, in 4th position. Haven't quite got the grid for this one, so I will try and go for it as soon as we can for you as they're making their way around the circuit. However, Moto Team, this is, I mean, you just alluded to it, there's several different types of bike. But they've already proven to us, as they did throughout the 2020 season, they can have their own. They were having a position where they were stuck in with the pit bike 140s, and it was unfortunately like watching a swarm of bees chase a load of children around a park, wasn't it? It was the case of these Moto Team guys having to get out of the way, but now they've got their own race. They really do put on a show.
They really do, and like you say, whenever they get their own race, we do see a really good race from them. When they were with the pit bike 140s, it was hard to focus in on them because there was so many bikes in between each Moto Team bike, but now they can properly have a go at each other. It is really entertaining to watch, and I'm sure more enjoyable for these guys as well. They were campaigning to have their own race, and we're glad they did, because it is so much fun to watch. But the final race of the day for the FAB-Racing minibike British Championships will be the adults. It will be the Moto Team. Will Howarth, we haven't seen him in Moto Team in a while. We know he just clears up and is very, very strong in Moto Team when he's here. But he looks to the lights for the first time here at Red Lodge. Who's it going to be that gets the whole shot? Good start from Will Howarth. Good start from Jamie King. Has a look at the inside. Can't quite get close enough. Already a little bit of breathing space for the number 96 of Will Howarth, the all-black bike, leading out the front using all the inside of the circuit there. Is that even allowed?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like you're getting an advantage compared to the pit bike looking bikes have the advantage of being able to take the concrete compared to the more GP style looking
I think
bikes.
Will Howarth was doing it as well.
We'll have to take a look at that one. But yeah, away goes Will Howarth and Jamie King. Jamie King, who's yet to finish outside of the top 2 in the Moto Team class. So he's on the way to adding a Moto Team championship to his name, of course. That is very much a tempting fate. Behind is the 133, which is being ridden by Darren Anderson. Usually Simon Clowes' bike being ridden by Darren Anderson. He is chasing down Jason Pugh, and the 133 and the 8. If you've watched FAB over the last 12 months or so, you know that these bikes are very much tied together by a very, very short string. They always seem to be well matched with each other. This time around, it's going to be Darren Anderson and Tony Campana on Jason Pugh's bike, sorry. So Tony Campana on the 8. So this is where I'm getting mixed up. I'm so used to seeing Jason Pugh on the bike, but this time it's Tony Campana on the 8. And Tony Campana, who of course stood in for the 133 or the one of Simon Clowes. So this is where you need to remember the bike scores points, the rider doesn't. So the rider is could be anyone. It could be you. It could be us. It should be us. But they are currently out on circuit. It is Will Howarth leading from Jamie King, Tony Campana and Darren Anderson in your top 4. Iona Glover in the 34, running very well, currently in 5th position.
Yeah, Iona Glover, a good ride from her on the number 34, like you say, running in the top 5. But Will Howarth out the front, putting the hammer down. Fastest lap of the race on that last lap, 48.1. Not miles quicker than Jamie King. Jamie King still 0.3 of a second behind Will Howarth. So he's not completely running away with it in this one, like we expected. Jamie is putting the hammer down and trying to stay with him. He does have a good bit of breathing space, does Will Howarth, but Jay King doing all he can. Of course, Jay picking up a few wins back at Lid and podium positions as well on the number 76 machine. Of course, also Pit Bike 140 champion from last year as well. So he knows his way around these FAB Racing circuits. He's been in FAB Racing since I can remember. That's a rider going very, very wide there. That's Philip Joyce on the number 119 machine, just getting that completely wrong through there. Looking further back, I believe that's number 107 of Elliot Newton and the number 5 of, and that's number 34 of Iona Glover and number 333 of Scott Jewett going through there. Iona Glover, like you said, good ride from him, from her rather. The number 7 of Ian Jackson just going up and down our timing screens, up into 3rd place now as the number 7.
Yeah, so its positions are changing throughout the field, and looking down at my tables of all the riders and where they finished, I was thinking, whoa, I've broken my own rules if it's the bike that scores the points. I've got all the riders written down rather than the numbers of the bike, because it is the 133 leading away after getting past the 8 there. So Darren Anderson and Tony Campana battling out over 4th position. Ian Jackson is on a move. Ian Jackson has made his way up through from 7th position into 3rd position. Will Howarth, fastest lap at 47.8 there for Will Howarth. So already starting to put some purple laps in. We've got 7 laps left to go in this one. The gap across the line was only 0.2 of a second though, so Jamie King is keeping him honest. Will Howarth, however, desperately will be wanting to pick up some good results. He's had an on-off so far whenever he's been here. Of course, round 2 he managed to pick up a win, a 4th and a 5th when we were down at Lid, and it was slightly different. This circuit, of course, it's a much more open circuit here at Red Lodge compared to Lid, where it's quite you've got the 2 long straights and of course the infield section there. So it's a different test for these riders, and out on circuit the 133 still holding off the 8 bike, but it is still Will Howarth leading from Jamie King across the line. It was still 0.2 of a second, so Jamie right on Will Howarth. However, it looks as though Will Howarth might have just broken out a little bit more of a gap over this first sector of this lap. We've got 6 laps left to go in this final race of the day of the FAB-Racing Minibike British Championships. We will be back tomorrow for race 2s and race 3s, so make sure you join us all throughout tomorrow. However, we've still got 6 laps left to go as we're basked and bathed in the sunlight and the sunshine here at Red Lodge. And as Will Howarth here takes a glance behind him on the exit of the back end of the circuit to try and see where Jamie King is, but he's now coming up to lap traffic, and that is the 5 of Alistair Kinnaird that is just about to find himself, and he does find himself passed and overtaken there by your race leader as he goes a lap down. Alistair Kinnaird fighting with Phil Joyce for 9th and 10th position, but it is Will Howarth leading away 48.2 across the line, 48.5 for Jamie King. The gap, however, is staying relatively the same. Jamie just can't quite make any inroads on Will Howarth, who's riding, well, very nicely, consistently.
Yeah, he's so consistent at the front is Will Howarth, just edging himself in front of Jamie King and just edging out that gap as the race goes on. But Jamie King just trying all he can to stay on Will Howarth.
Yeah, I'm just checking our timing screens. I don't think that well, unless Jamie King has ridden that bike almost to the 1,000th of a second consistently, I don't believe the gap is changing on our timing screen. So it is now, as you can say, on the thing, 2.55 seconds. It says on ours 0.12 of a second. So yeah, we can see it's now 2.55 of a second between Will Howarth and Jamie King. So Jamie's starting to fall back from Will Howarth, and Will is doing a great job there, just out enjoying himself on this Moto Team bike. We say that when he turns up and when he's on form, he is really on form. Very, very difficult to beat. And well, he's about to come around to start. 3 laps left to go. He's got a pretty healthy advantage over Jamie King. Jamie King, who is equally, 16 seconds ahead of Darren Anderson and Tony Campano, who are still fighting over 3rd and 4th position. Ian Jackson, he's made some good moves up into 5th position. Iona Glover holding on to 6th place, which would be her best result in FAB, currently 8th place so far this season. And Iona, who did a good job, I believe it was back at Lid last season in the rain, managed to pick up a decent result back then. But well, across the line with 3 laps left to go is Will Howarth. The gap 2.3 of a second, 20 seconds back to Darren Anderson. These guys at the front really starting to motor as Jamie makes his way past Iona on the 34 as they sweep around left-hander at the back end of the circuit in the S's, and it doesn't really seem like Jamie's got any answer to Will Howarth.
No, it's the first rider we've really seen have be anywhere near Will Howarth, really, but like you say, doesn't really have much of an answer, trying everything he can, using every inch of the circuit there on the exits of the final corner. You can just see they go through turn 1, 2. As they go through turn 3, they just cut the inside curb. You just see Jamie King using all the track on the inside there, so he's trying hard to get onto the back of Will Howarth, and of course you can't blame him. He's out the front of this championship is Jay King, leading the championship, of course, winning 3 races, getting 2-3 second places as well, and he's trying everything.
Yeah, about a lap to go as Will Howarth rounds the S's. He's coming down, and we'll start the final lap of the day here for the FAB-Racing Mini Bike British Championship, 3rd round of the season from Red Lodge, and it will be Will Howarth leading away from Jamie King in 2nd position. Darren Anderson in 3rd on the 133. Tony Campano is Will Howarth, fastest lap of the race last time around, 47.754. And well, the gap is now back out to 2.4 seconds. Jamie had taken about 0.2 of a second out of him, but yeah, as you say, Will Howarth making use of the track limits here as he runs across the concrete on the inside there, and well, it's only helping him extend that lead as he sweeps up towards the back end of the circuit for the final time, and the final time for us today. Plenty more racing to come tomorrow, so make sure you join us here on motorsport.radio and of course on FAB-Racing on their Facebook page. If you've enjoyed the day, make sure you give us a like, share, subscribe, all the good stuff you do on the socials. But for now and for today, we're about to watch Will Howarth cross the line and take race 1 here for the FAB-Racing Mini Bike British Championship Moto Team Race 1. Fantastic race there for Will, really well deserved, really nicely done. He picks up his 2nd win on the season, picks up race 1 back at Lid round 2 as the checkered flag comes out, and we're now have to wait for what almost feels like an eternity, but across the line will come Darren Anderson, surely, as he's still got if it looks like is that Ian Jackson that's got up past Tony Campana. Tony Campana dropping down, sorry, completely missed that one. Tony Campana issue on the bike, and it looks as though the 133 has the 8 has had an issue, but Yeah, it is Jamie King, Darren Anderson, Ian Jackson, Iona Glover in 5th position, Scott Jewett up in 6th position, Alistair Kinnaird, Vince Bailey, Tony Campana, and then we have Elliot Newton and Phil Joyce rounding out the field here as what has been an electric day's racing. It's been great to be back. It was 90 days in between races at the end of round 2 and the start of round 3, and these guys have clearly enjoyed themselves being back on the track and being back on the bike.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, after such a long wait, they can only just enjoy the sun here at Red Lodge, and they have done. We've had some great races. The Premier Class gave us such a great race there, with drama at the beginning, drama at the end, drama all the way through, really. But it's been brilliant to see all these classes. GP50s as well. They've given us a very good race, and all the senior classes as well, providing us with entertainment with bar bashing, course cutting, grass tracking, and all sorts, and even the sidecars as well, giving us some good action with a couple of crashes. Jason and Leah Greenstreet flying through the field as well. We can expect to see similar stuff tomorrow, and I can't wait.
Yeah, absolutely so make sure you do join us all day tomorrow for race 2s and race 3s from the 3rd round of the season here at Red Lodge. It's the Fab Racing Mini Bike British Championship. I've been Gareth Hall. This has been Tristan Finocchiaro. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. We'll be back tomorrow with more action here from Red Lodge. Have a good night.
Let's go! The official BSB Partner Series. This is FAB Racing.
Yeah.